Modern day Paul Revere, dropping truth bombs make the matrix fear. Alphabet boys with their wires and their spies. He peels back the layers, exposing the lies. Digital renegade, fighting the haze. Hero of the code in these glitching days. Locking their control, shattering the cage. Eric Hecker rising, bringing truth to the stage. Surveillance towers, they think they own the skies, but hackers on the ground, dismantling their guise. Mind hackers scheming, implanting their trash. He burns their playbook, turning plans into ash. AI gods bow to your maker. Hacker got receipts, call him the truth taker. Black ops whispers, they shiver at his name, exposing their control in the shadowy game. Say lurking, but he's too quick, turning their tactics into parlor tricks. Code break assassin, the watchdog's bane, shining bright light through their data stained chain. Digital renegade, fighting the haze. Hero of the code in these glitching days. Locking their control, shattering the cage. Eric Hecker rising, bringing truth to the stage. Eric Hecker rising, bringing truth to the stage.
Good morning there, Moneypenny. Just getting things set up here. I'm been doing stuff on weekends only, so I'm a bit rusty come Saturday mornings. I'm just hitting some buttons here and trying to get things all dialed in. By all means, do not hesitate to throw in a request if that's your thing. Oh, I see the request there. Give me 1 second. Okay. You are approved. I think I got everything dialed in. Purple Pill is working. Streaming to X Live and YouTube, as well as having this chat here. I think I have crossed all my T's and
you
dotted
are
my
Mr.
I's.
Tech. You're Mr. Technology. Oh, I'm going to have to ask you favors and to teach me some stuff because you're way ahead of me.
I'm working on
You're
it.
way ahead. Oh, well, first of all, that music was brilliant and the quality was amazing. Tell me how you do it, please. Please.
Somebody made that for me, Moneypenny. I'm not that technologically advanced. That was AI generated, is my understanding. I am less functional when it comes to software stuff because in my mechanical tradesman's mind, that's invisible to me, so harder to work with. The stuff that I do in my studio is all with hardware, which is stuff that I can see and touch and is tactile and way more my skill set.
Well, I know what you're talking about. That is a Suno song, and I will write you 101 of them. I write about 10, 15 every week. I love that AI, the music AI. It's my way of getting rid of stress, to be honest, a lot of it. But I've decided to hide my words through the lyrics of music to help protect me from the British jails, so that rather than me having to type everything, if I got something as a little bit contentious, I put it in the lyrics of a Suno song, and then I published the song with a little bit of video behind it. That's literally how I am having to do stuff at the moment. But no, I'm just complimenting you on the technology of you're putting this into YouTube, and when you played the song, it was exceptionally clear. Are you doing it from a phone or from a laptop? How are you doing it? Because it is brilliant.
Currently, my studio is I have 2 laptops. I have 2 video switchers, and I have 1 audio mixer, all of it being hardware.
So you're running the space from a laptop? Is it a Mac or a PC?
It's technically, well, it's yeah, I guess officially the stream. Well, no, it's not officially. The laptop's not running the stream. The video switchers are. They pump out the video signal to the platforms, and the laptop I'm just simply using for creating the X space, and then I take that HDMI out of the laptop into the video mixers, and that pumps out.
So it's a video space. I'm on Android, so I can't currently tell that you're doing this as a video. I can't see that. So that explains quite a bit.
So you're in my X space, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I brought that into my video switcher, and I am now redistributing that. So if you were to look on X, where it shows the X spaces that are playing, some of them are the audio, some of them are the live video. This audio conversation, right? I basically took my screen from my laptop, and now I'm pumping that out also as a live video to the X platform and also to YouTube. So effectively, whatever I pull up on my screen for the laptop, so like right now I'm on my own homepage on X with this X space going, and that's what's being distributed to the two video platforms.
But strangely, I can't see on X. Normally at the top, you get like the pink bits and the white bits. So you get video spaces or live video things, and then you get spaces. I can't see you listed in both. I can only see you listed as an ordinary space, not a space that has got a video thing as well.
My phone is like that too. My phone only shows the audio spaces. It never shows the video spaces. So I don't know what the issue is there with how the platform works. I can only see video spaces on my laptop.
Yeah, because last night, for example, I watched Ashton Forbes via X, but on video, and he was listed with a pink blob and a white blob, or he is, when he does that. Anyway, I'm boring everybody talking tech, but I just am interested.
No, it's all good. It's kind of my new trade that I'm getting into as I'm becoming older and more crippled from many decades of trade work. I will be handing in my 2-foot pipe wrenches at some point permanently and doing this as my new trade.
Well, you're doing a bloody good job. Thank you.
You got it. I'm actually just going to I think I can reach. I'm going to step away from the mic because I left my coffee out of arm's length. So.
Talking of coffee, I just fell for my first YouTube advert and bought a special coffee from America.
Oh, boy.
That has all these amazing things in it that are helpful for people with very low immunity. I've got quite a few autoimmune. I didn't have any before COVID. I've now got lots of them. And I've got this coffee that gets delivered, and it's very nice tasting. But I take it mainly. I take it. I'm thinking of it as a medicine. You guys are awesome when it comes to getting things to drink in the mornings that could be called coffee and they could be called something else that are filled with all these magic potions and drugs and pharmaceutical nutrients. I'm just amazed. That industry must be massive over there.
There seems to be a certain affinity for coffee here for sure.
I love the way you said coffee, the New York coffee.
There you go, Cawffee Tawk. Awesome coffee. That's why Daz got hooked on my stuff because I think he just loves my accent.
I do too. I have to say, I do.
The funny thing is I would say that it's almost gone. I left New York, to go to the South Pole in 2010 and was no longer immersed in the community. So I would say that it's really dwindled. Like the only videos I really have of myself from, wielding the 100% accent would be. Oh, looks like my mute button got weird. The videos from South Pole, when I watch those videos, I die laughing because even I'm like, oh my God, look at the accent on this guy.
It's brilliant. We've got Jean in the space, by the way, who at the moment is going through some very amazingly unusual, incredible, quite disturbing stuff to do with the Russian connections. I don't know if you're probably up on it all, Eric, but it is quite interesting.
I'm loosely familiar with Jean's new issues. But part of me chuckles because I can appreciate that there are going to be people that are going to try to slow Gene's roll. I'm familiar with that, let's just say. But what little I know of Gene, it makes me laugh because Gene's way more prepared to deal with this bullshit type of action than I am. So all I would say is I can gather what's going to be coming down the pipe in Gene's world, but I have to respect that he has tradecraft that I wish that I had. So he's going to be a much more formidable problem for them. And since he's from Boston, and from what I've gathered from, the limited previous conversations we've had, I don't think Gene is someone to be trifled with. So I'm going to grab my popcorn, and I have a feeling Gene's going to put on a wonderful show, I think.
He's got balls. He's definitely got balls. I mean, he's in a position where I get paranoid when things go wrong in my house. When I start writing about dangerous government DARPA hidden plasma fusion experiments, my analytics obviously drop off almost instantly. But I also have things that start happening, things that happen in the house, and even things with my Ring door cameras and my technology not working, my Wi-Fi suddenly dropping, getting strange messages, phone calls, all this sort of stuff. But you don't know. You have no idea whether it is connected, whether you are just being completely paranoid, or whether the higher forces are doing something. And I look up to Gene because I think he's got it sussed a lot more than me.
Yeah, I think Gene's going to suss out some things, and Gene does not have to confirm nor deny. I'll put this one out there and just say that I suspect that Gene is someone that doesn't so much get angry as he does get even.
That would be a good characterization. Thank you both. And don't forget, we got the Boston accent's another great accent, even though I've lost a lot of it through the years working overseas. I always say this is more my modified Boston accent for non-native English speakers. And we're just, taking things day by day. And, obviously there's nothing to make a case out of, but there's definitely been an uptick in precautionary measures. I've lived with this my whole life, adult life, I should say. And so, we're just, now we have a different level of awareness, and things are getting more narrowed down thanks to some of the sampling and toxicology, the cultures and things like that. We have a good idea of time frames, and it's just, there's not much more we can do with it than just move forward and be more aware, and we'll see what life brings.
One of the cool things about not operating in a court of law, Gene, is you're not bounded by the rules of a court of law.
That is very true, and I often said that in my line of work previously when I was interrogating people. I'd say the nice thing is I don't have to prove anything in court now, do I? I just have to be convinced of it myself.
Exactly. People say, if you do that, you're not allowed to do that because then it's not admissible in court. Oh, I have no intention on bringing this to court.
No intention whatsoever of bringing anything to court.
Do you see a jury in this room anywhere?
Yeah, exactly.
I am thine judge and jury, sir.
Yeah. And there was a few things I had put in place, and Nat was like, and that's like, well, why would we do this and not just hook it to the alarm system, so the cops come? I said, because if this goes off the way it works, I said, I want some intimate time alone to ask questions before I make a decision on what happens next.
Right. Totally understood. You'll get a kick out of this. Many years ago, my grandfather had a house in the Catskills, and it was something that we would visit here and there, and oftentimes was winterized, left vacant or whatever. But one time we showed up to the place and it had gotten broken into, and some stuff was stolen, and some damage was incurred to the property. So called the police, and then in a very short period of time, the police rang the house and told my father. They said, we found where the stuff is at that was stolen, and it turns out like it's right down the road, make a left, first house on the left, they're there right now. And, we won't be there for like 45 minutes.
Did you just say the police rang the house because Moneypenny is here?
No.
Oh
That
my
sounded
God.
very British.
Dean, how is that? I
Here was
know.
the cops showed up.
How is your wife, Jean? How's Nat?
Yeah, she's doing well. She's matter of fact, she's just jumping in the car now. I'm going to take her to her favorite boutique called the Dollar Store. pick up the various lotions and potions. But I was going to tell you a story. When I was a kid, and I've talked about it before. I'm if you call my line of work honest, I'm the first person in my family to be in an honest line of work. From the Italians of the north end of Boston. And we had an incident where somebody was making threatening phone calls to the house. And they were actually like against my mother and, just saying awful things. And my dad had an idea who it was. And, they went the route. He got at that time, you got the tap placed on the phone and everything like that. And I'll never forget the detectives came over and, we're going through sort of what the information they had, which they're like, there's nothing we can go on. And the detective outright said to my dad, and he knew who he was. He's like, if you know who this guy is, you do what you got to do. And I was like, there's old school Boston policing right there for you.
Yeah, that's like what happened with our stolen property. They told us, we're not going to be there for 45 minutes. It's right around the corner from you. My dad was like, listen, just go there. Like, I appreciate what you're saying, but, if you don't go arrest them and I go, you'll be arresting me next.
I just found out the world is run by demonic pedophiles. Are we going to do anything about this?
You just found out, hey?
No, but I started paying closer attention. I'm glad Moneypenny is here.
What do you think should be done, Mooks?
Dude, I mean, it's so hard to say, right? It's like what I picture is just like American people like going through the drive-through and they're like, let's do a revolution. It's like there's not enough get up.
I think your mic might have cut out. Oh, looks like you got, let's see, requested. That's probably, there's Mooks again coming back in. Let's see. Bum, 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 bum.
I got tossed out of here.
X is super glitchy.
I'm gonna switch phones.
So you said something about you wanted to head to the drive-through and order a revolution.
No, I'm saying I think it's like people are so lazy and debilitated. Like just people. First of all, there's a lot of people that are happy, that have plenty of money and nothing to worry about. And, you know, it's always felt like a balance of like, all right, just give the people just enough so they won't like, you know, burn the house, like go crazy, right? But now we've entered some new territory here. And this, I don't know, it's all so fishy. It's very hard to keep reading and digesting the onslaught of stories. And I think that's by design. The rollout is sketch. It's suspect all the way through, the way the release has gone, you know, and then how sort of like people have like time to address it, like Elon on the timeline, the way he was, you know, like getting sort of like, it's like he's not getting a fastball down the strike zone. It's like they're like, oh, here's some like emails that are random. Oh, it's fake. Oh, it's real, you know, and then he's just like, and it's like the populace is being conditioned to accept like this and say like, well, there's nothing we can do about this, right? You've got Alan Dershowitz, like outspoken.
I think the only thing that's inaccurate in what you're saying is that it's new. Like everything you're saying has been going on for like 100 years easily.
Yeah, I was kidding about that part of it. It was kind of like, Jesus, like it's gotten worse though, right? Like certainly more information is available now than has been. And I just don't see anybody taking action.
Good way to put it, because look at the title of the space. Have things gotten better? It's kind of the direction I was coming from, is with all this stuff, you know, pick a topic, go back a ways, right? Tell me people weren't interested in making things better back then, but then it begs the question, have things gotten better?
No.
Right. Bingo. Right? As each day passes now, pay attention to the things that you wish were better. Let me know if they're getting better. It's a wild, wild world. And yeah, you did bring up a point. People are lazy and they're conditioned, and the media is propagandizing everything. But from my perspective, all of those things have been going on for a very long time, and none of them are getting better.
Yeah, and it's like people have, in a sense, they kind of have everything they want, and so it's like, well, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like that's the attitude.
I don't think anybody has everything they want.
No, but I'm saying in general that people who could take action and like just they don't care to because they have enough and they don't want to jeopardize like whatever situation they're in. It's not like this like massive horde of people like without socks. It's anything but that. It's just sort of everybody has like, I don't know. I think we have these like somebody said something about wearing linen, why we need to wear linen. Can you speak to that?
No.
I know a random topic there, but dude, what do you think people should do?
I think people should do whatever they think is best, do it really fast, and stop doing what other people tell them to do. Stop asking other people what you should do next and start doing what you think is right immediately.
I'm learning the piano.
There you go. I'm sure that'll fix everything.
I'm not looking to fix everything because I don't think that it's possible.
That there's plenty of room in the world for quitters also.
No, but I'm not quitting anything. I'm a musician.
Fair enough, but it's kind of a weird circumstance to be in, to say I can see all of the problems of the world. I choose to do nothing about it, but I'm going to pressure other people to tell me what they should do about fixing the problems I've identified.
I made a song about Alan Dershowitz called He Kept His Underwear On, and I published that.
Did you do one for Monica Lewinsky?
No, because I like Monica Lewinsky. She seems like a nice girl, and I feel like she's got, I don't know, who knows, but like, Yeah, I don't know. Look, you're right. The attitude shouldn't be like have other people do things, right? But it is, and I think people need to talk together to work. I want to see immediate change, right? I don't. I'm powerless to affect that at this moment. That's what I would say. I'm not quitting anything. I didn't join yet.
Well, I just approved somebody shakes Piper McGee. Brand new person. Never seen in one of the spaces before. But you requested a mic. What do you got?
Howdy, y'all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you all slept well last night. And the poems keep coming. Thank you for writing. Thank you for playing. Thank you for participating. God bless you all.
10-4. Was that it?
Let's follow it up with some double blessings. Actions of now.
Let's try to keep it on point, guy. You came barging into a space, never seen you before. You requested a mic, and what are you doing? Double blessing people?
I think we're maintaining the future for our children. I think that's what we're doing collectively. I'm not sure. That's what I think we're doing.
10-4.
What do you think the biggest worry is for our children? And do you think it's a relevant topic more because of the Epstein thing, or is it simply because children have become the important part of the future?
I think that it's probably that the children are at much greater risk than people are aware of or letting on. I think that things like terrible things happen and it gets covered up by, apparently there's, I do mean this in a real sense, like apparently there's an overwhelming amount of this horrible stuff going on. And it's extremely dangerous if adults are willing to cover for each other with these crazy activities. You know, people are, I don't know what it is. It's hard to tell when you read, right? Like people saying, I don't know. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I feel like they're already at risk. And also the misinformation in schools is a disaster.
Yeah, it's no different over here. I can tell you that. If anything, worse.
Moneypenny, do you get along with Ashton?
Oh, that is a complicated question. Ooh, well, we got married recently. Did you know we got married? No, we got married in a little. I made a little, video, AI video out of us. Well, he proposed to me. Look, I've known him years and years. And we are very much investigative in the same way. I think there's a lot of mutual respect. Certainly we talk in spaces a lot. We've actually done spaces together. But some of the stuff where I get very frustrated is because he has very strong convictions in his own beliefs and is perhaps not so open-minded to some of the things that I discover. And that irritates me a bit.
Too mean. And he's too mean. He's too mean. It's just unnecessary. That's what I see. I'm like, why does he talk to people that way? Why? It doesn't have to be that way. If anything, that takes away from what the points you're making when you act out like that. It's no good.
Oh my God, that's my favorite part of Ashton. I call that candor. Ashton speaks with great candor and boldness. I have a huge fondness for that aspect.
I guess
He
it's needed
is incredibly entertaining. He is, I mean, if you look at my profile, I've always got clips from his stuff. And if ever you have a dull moment, you just have to, honestly, he's getting more entertaining. He's dressing up. He's even done, he did something wearing military outfit the other day. He's gone into dark mode. He's reinvented different avatar versions of himself. He dances. I mean, his dancing is very, very bizarre, but I tell you, it's entertaining. And he doesn't hold back in speaking out, which is really, really good. I have a fondness for him, I must admit. He looks a bit like my dad used to do at the same age, which is a bit scary. But apart from that, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, no, just for the record, you know, I don't know. I think Hecker, I've brought him up to you before and you had a differing feeling about it, but I personally am thankful for the guy and his, you know, what he's done. He's really driven a wedge in some different communities in a way. And yes, he's very entertaining. I agree.
I think Ashton's at least firing in the right direction, which is for everybody to become more aware of the tech that's been hidden for far too long.
Yes, and that is the important part. But he's also, I think, doing a real service, which some people don't recognize, in teaching science. I mean, some of it is bloody advanced science, but he is teaching and educating people, you know, even down to, you know, taking them from Einstein or Maxwell up to Thomas Bearden and, you know, this fantastical, very high level aneutronic plasma fusion and stuff. I mean, some of it is really advanced, and I find it really interesting just to learn more stuff often.
I agree with that. And I'll also go so far as to say he's also giving a great education on how to fight your way through the barbed wire, quicksand minefield of disclosure and social networks, because it is fucking full of bullshit, con artists, provocateurs, dissipators, moles, all of the above, who present as the nicest people, and how I don't understand why you would treat me that way. I'm obviously of good intent. People like Ashton, myself, and Gene have the ability to cut through that bullshit a lot faster and treat people accordingly. And I think Ashton's giving a great education on precisely how to do that. Fuck those guys.
Well, I'm trying to do that as well. I wasn't on your list, but I do try to cut through bullshit because I've just got to the stage where I don't put up with it. So I don't go into spaces and engage with people who are named for it. I do get hurt by it, and I am far too sensitive. But
I like the quote from the Conan the Barbarian movie: "Crush your enemies." It's just that simple. And if somebody identifies somebody as their enemy and engages in crushing them, my hat goes off to them. I'm not going to bicker and say, how dare you call that person your enemy? That's your choice to make. So I just simply see Ashton identifying a lot of people as his enemies, and he moves forwards in crushing them, which I think is wonderful.
I'm with you on
you're
that.
a little lady living in England on your own with no support, no backup, and absolutely no way of defending yourself. It's a bit risky, that strategy.
To each their own. Not everybody's built to be in the front lines. Life's not fair.
Now he's confronting.
But I'd rather be alive and fight than dead.
To truly fight, one's risking death. If you're not willing to risk that, you can't truly be in the fight. That's my opinion.
I do that every day, Eric. I won't go into the reasons why and how now, but that's why I respect people like yourself and Gene so much, because risk adversity is something that people let their whole life be taken over and governed by, and I don't think they actually see real life because they live in a little cotton wool ball. People that, you know, threw me out of their lives and threw millions of people out of their lives because they didn't believe there was anything wrong with COVID or vaccines, or that the government would ever do anything wrong, or that our prime minister would ever lock people up for saying things on social media, because all of that is a horrible conspiracy theory. And there are far too many people that won't even engage with my company or even speak to me now because I'm a dangerous, risky conspiracy theorist.
The vast majority of people will give up the fight well before the threat of death. All you have to do is threaten their next mortgage payment. I mean, that's the world that we're in right now, is that everybody is already living in a state of fear, and it doesn't even have to come anywhere near death. You know, fear of not, like, look what the whole COVID debacle did. Everybody was scared shitless to not follow the rules. Nobody was being threatened with death.
I don't fear death. Actually, I don't fear death. It's the build up to it, I think.
I feel like a Jedi. If they killed me, I'd be made stronger somehow, which is why they don't kill me because it
I can
seems
believe
like
that.
they'd be
I
right.
can believe that. Yeah. I think you'd be scary reincarnated. You'd be formidable.
Eric.
Yes.
Hi there. Ricky New. I just actually found you on social media and watched your interview about the South Pole. Mind-blowing stuff. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I found you on here. I thought I'd hop in and chat for a second. When you were talking about the ELF, the extra low frequency machine down there.
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you, but I think I got you.
Okay. The ELF. I was interested in the extra low frequency machine. Are you familiar with a guy, David Eck?
David
author?
Icke?
Icke? Is it Icke? Yeah.
I think that's the correct way. Moneypenny would know.
Yeah, it is David Icke. Wears a blue tracksuit, told everybody he was God, runs some formidable things, and is known to be a terrorist in Europe and is not allowed into certain countries.
I'm talking about an author. He was writing books about Epstein and the pedo ring long time ago.
I think that's one and the same character.
I think it is. Yeah, he talked about everything from reptilians to governments, pedophile rings. Yeah, quite possibly his book.
Okay, I happened to see an interview he was doing, but he was talking about low frequencies and high frequencies, and how the pedo ring was actually the reason they were doing this. They were feeding low frequencies that come off people that are really, really feared, traumatized, angry, that sort of thing, and trying to feed like an astral entity that has been around since forever. And that's what they were doing. I just thought it was interesting that in the South Pole you were talking about a low frequency emitter, whether it was tied into the same idea. But
well, I think that technology exists, obviously, but it's multifaceted. Could it be used for the things that Ike was referring to? Certainly. It doesn't limit it to that. There's a lot more that can be accomplished from the existence of that tech, and depending on who wields it and what they want to do with it. It's as dangerous as a gun, right? Depends on whose hand it's in and what they intend to do with it.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
David Icke.
The other question I had for you too was my best friend is an airline pilot. So I was talking to him last night, and he was telling me, he's like, all the pilots are seeing these crazy lights up in the sky, almost like bright stars, he said, and they're moving in the most obscure directions, like so fast, straight up, straight down, straight left. And they're talking to each other, asking like, are you guys seeing this up here? And they're like, yeah. And
Yeah.
And they asked, and they can't get any answers of what it is. I thought, do you have any insight on that?
It's the geomagnetic activity at the moment is incredibly high. You've also probably heard of something like Schumann frequencies, Schumann resonances. So at the moment in the Northern Hemisphere, particularly, we're getting these amazing auroras. You've seen these beautiful colored lights, colored skies we've had that have gone much further south than they normally do. We just had the largest geomagnetic storm in over 20 years in the last 10 days. We've got some very strange solar activity, but we've got these great big bursts of plasma, the plasma filaments coming in off the sun in these corona mass ejections. And as such, it is creating a lot of these sort of plasma orbs, some people call them, but you remember the Foo Fighters that people used to talk about from the Second World War, where the pilots used to see these great big, massive, sort of orange particularly, but these huge, great big 10-kilometer wide diameter, some of them were described as moving objects that seem to have some sort of organizational structures. I think that's probably what you're referring to.
Oh, okay, very interesting.
There will be more of them, but there is a big connection to the whole nuclear and atomic fusion industry. They all started about the same time. You remember, the Manhattan era, the Atomic Energy Act, 1942 onwards, when we started seeing these things in the skies. And then obviously in the last couple of years and what we saw over New Jersey in November 24, where we saw a lot of objects in the skies that are morphological, they change. They give off different colors. They emulate airplanes. A lot of these things, natural plasma phenomena based on things like ball lightning, and they're huge balls of energy. They've been studied by NASA for decades, since 1991. A paper came out in early 25 after a FOIA request on NASA that showed they've been doing it over 10 space shuttle missions. They've got huge amounts of documentary evidence, videos and everything of these objects forming almost like communities where they split into tribal behavior. They have sort of divers and they live off electromagnetics. So they actually have sort of grazers and feeders. They have different purposes, the different groups. They work like a community structure.
I saw one of those drones that, you just referred to the Jersey drones, but I saw one of those drones in Connecticut, and it was tremendous. Had a giant white light coming out of the top and bottom of it, and I followed it, and I went back an hour later with someone else to see it, and it was still in the area, and it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. But those went away December, and that was, it was just up prior to the, I think it was just prior to the inauguration, where they really were. It was every day in New Jersey. People were reporting and trying to take photos of them, unable to. I had the same experience where you can't. I mean, taking pictures at night with these phones anyway is very difficult. But with those, they're out of focus, out of phase, moving, changing, hard to see, hard to look at.
Yeah, there's a real confusion because some of it is advanced technology UAVs. So a UAP is an unknown phenomena, but a UAV is the military term for a drone that is made by people like Kratos or Lockheed Martin that can have a plasma sheath around it. So some of these are hardware that is made by man, that is a military vehicle that is disguised by a plasma or an optical sheath, whereas others are natural phenomena that are plasma, that are normal phenomena like lightning phenomena.
Odds are 99.9% of it is just man-made and earth-based.
Yeah, you'll be amazed. Well, I'm not you, Eric. You won't be amazed, but I'm sure a lot of people don't realize how advanced this technology is. The optical deception, the ways that even if you look at the Chinese drone performance that was done at New Year, and you look what they managed to do with literally, I think they had 8,000 individual drones there, and they were using optical refraction lighting and stuff. And they use stealth technology like they used around, the original F-35s and the airplanes from, early 2000s.
Ricky, how many airline pilot friends did you say made these statements to you?
At least half a dozen. I have quite a few friends that are all a group of airline pilots here in Canada.
What did they think they saw?
They don't know. They couldn't explain it. They just
who did they try to get information from?
From their bosses, higher ups in the airline.
Why would they think their bosses would know?
I guess just, who to ask. That would be their, first go-to, I guess. But
I doubt most people are going to have access to that information to share it.
No, for sure.
Eric, I've actually got an air traffic control recording of the pilots seeing them, which I'm going to put in the bottom pill. You could actually play it on your technology you've got if you wanted, where you actually hear the pilots describing them and talking about them. This is from Salem, Oregon, West Coast in the end of 2024, but I'll put the link in the bottom pill. I'm on an Android, so I can't put it in the nest at the top.
No worries. There's no lack of reports of these activities. There's just lack of transparency from the manufacturers of the equipment that are deceiving people in their true function and volume. That's all. There's tons of people that have seen all kinds of things that they can't explain. It doesn't mean that Raytheon couldn't explain it or Lockheed Martin couldn't explain it. That therein lies the issue. There's not a lack of observation There's a lack of explanation.
Yeah, I just wondered if you wanted to hear the pilots talking about it, but maybe
I just don't doubt it. Like
separately.
No, I'm not trying to be a dick, Money Penny, but to me, it's like this just keeps running the conversation into the direction of like sensationalism, and I try to stay out of those weeds. Let's discuss the tech.
Oh,
Yeah.
I call it evidence. I like to get evidence because people say,
There's tons
oh,
of that.
no,
Well,
of course they haven't.
And
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting at. There's no lack of evidence at this point, Money Penny. So with that being
I'm
said,
glad-
how
I'm
do we
glad you say that.
how do we
Yeah.
move beyond that conversation? And to me, the answer is let's start discussing the tech.
Great,
I've
that's
already
the way I
jumped.
like
I've
it.
jumped that hurdle. There's enough evidence. I agree. We don't even need to find any more evidence. Gene, you got your hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, I just want to check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So one of the interesting things in my research, through a friend, we found so her grandfather was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base at the time of the Roswell incident. And so her mother was conveying to our friend saying, oh yeah, your grandfather was there at Wright-Pat when they brought all these aliens and this, technology in and stuff like that. And they live in Rhode Island. And so that started a path for me that led to a company that was called Avco Everett, which did a lot of work with NASA in this, through the 60s, and a lot of it was published. And the owner of that company, his archives are up at Dartmouth University in New Hampshire. So I have on my to-do list is go up and examine those. But what I found interesting was in the 90s, Avco Everett was sold to a company called Texatron. Texatron is a U.S. government contractor, and one of their big things that it sort of took a bit of diving to discover, but they do electronic aircraft vehicles, EAVs or AEVs, something like that. Their manufacturing was all along the east coast of the U.S. and included places in Europe that were in close proximity to all those European sightings as well. So, when we're talking about the tech in these companies, we always think of the big names, but this is one that seemingly has sat under the radar for a bit.
Absolutely follow what you're cooking there, Gene. So this is James Oliva of the Totally Legitimate Business, the TLB podcast, and he's out of Brooklyn. I interviewed with him. We've been doing a deep dive into the Military Industrial Corporation on Long Island, and this is one of the things that we've been throwing out there is the volume of teeny little companies that you've never heard of that are all over the greater Long Island area and have been there since the inception of the area being referred to as the cradle of aviation.
Yeah. And I've, mentioned before in my own experience, sort of going from being an Intel contractor to being set up, in cooperation with or by the direction of government entities, as a service disabled small business and a subcontractor to major contractors to sort of check the box. And, in doing that, having that experience myself and then learning, all of these, you find them, these, 123 Main Street LLC, which is a subcontractor to Hewlett Packard, is owned by a retired senior vice president of Hewlett Packard, and is subcontracted to, this, that, and the other. It's quite revealing that the system itself is not as transparent as it makes itself out to be, nor as it was designed to be.
Yeah, totally follow you. It's that which we don't know that's more dangerous than that which we know. Similar to what I would say with wealthy people all the time. You know, there's really rich people that make sure we never know their names. If we know somebody's name publicly, they're not really that wealthy. That's how life works. It did look like Mooks had his hand up, but I can't tell if it was a shadow hand or if he put it down.
No, I just wanted to tell Money Penny it's nice to hear her voice. I love her personality on the spaces in general. And thanks for a nice Saturday.
Oh,
Well, thank you. You're very welcome. I've just downloaded your app as well. I'm going to have a listen to your binaural
No
beat.
way. Awesome. Wow.
Mooks is going to program your mind now, Money Penny. But Money Penny's got her hand up.
I'll take that risk. I'll take that risk.
Did you have your hand up, Money Penny?
Yeah, I was simply going to make a comment about how angry it got me, this whole drama earlier in this year about European airports. It started in Denmark and Finland, and then it was Germany. Everyone said closing airports because of these drone assaults coming in from Russia. It was all completely obnoxious, made up, fallacious. There wasn't one drone. Even you probably know a couple of people that do these debunks, but Mick West, I don't normally agree with him. I agreed with him 100%. There was no real drones. There was the odd little plasma orb and a little coloured bit of aurora. Notice that all of them were in the northern part of the hemisphere during the November solstice, when all these things float around normally. And it was a great big ruse to make it look as though Russia was doing this aggressive, overtake so that NATO would all get pulled together and all be, Europeans fighting the big bad Russia. There were never any drones proven over any European airports ever at all.
So once again, the powers that be Pied Pipered everybody into wasting their time in arguing about a topic that had zero evidence. Sounds par for the course. This is what social media is all about, folks. This is what it's all about, is to throw some fucking shit sandwiches on the table and watch everybody bicker over which one tastes better. If you're going to keep engaging these topics that are thrown out there all the time, you're being developed as an asset and you're a useful idiot. It's just the way of the world now, folks. If you engage topics that lack evidence and you bicker about the validity of a topic that has been presented with no evidence, you are a useful idiot to get involved in that debate. You're doing what they want. Apply more discernment to that which you engage. Choose your battles better. Well
said. I'm going to replay that back.
Fair enough.
A mantra on a t-shirt.
Clip the shit out of it, Money Penny. Because look at the community. I mean, Money Penny is that. I mean, I've only been in X Spaces. I'm rapidly approaching 1 year of being in X Spaces. Have things gotten better? No. I see the same activity occurring over and over again. False feuds are being manufactured so that people can bicker about nothing. There's nothing on the table. And people will argue about the veracity of the nothing. It'll keep happening until people have greater levels of discernment. But we have Mr. Wolf Raelius here in the mix with his hand up. Welcome, Wolf.
Good afternoon, Eric. I wanted to add a comment to follow what you just uttered about social media spaces and people accepting a limited role as a useful idiot. If you've ever realized that, oh my God, I was a useful idiot in any particular circumstance, and if you've learned from that, then what you've done is you've graduated. And if you begin treating social media spaces like this as a cognitive exercise routine to keep yourself sharp and to kind of gauge the observer framework that people are being kind of herded, or otherwise herded is too strong, encouraged to adopt, I would suggest that there is value to be extracted from that. And it will help you eventually wean yourself away from less productive uses of social media. I don't know if that's too abstruse.
No, I get that entirely. It's it's the difference. I would say it's the difference between use and abuse. You can use social media, or you can be abused by social media, but it's up to the end user on how that relationship is expressed.
Correct. You're right. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, most people I see are getting abused by social media.
Yeah. I also would encourage folks to realize that social media can actually be. It's like tearing your muscles down when you exercise. That it hurts. It feels so good after the fact. If you can recognize that, oh my God, I fell for a piece of gaslighting, or I fell for a narrative frame that I should have known better about, or I hear this person or that person with one personality in this space but a different personality in another space. All of that is actionable intelligence that you can use to improve your own mental observer frameworks, and I'd encourage more people to utilize them. That's all.
Gene, I think you had your hand up, or it might have been a shadow hand, but if you have something to throw in. Shadow hand. Copy that. So then, Moneypenny, you got your hand up. Is that a legit hand, or is it your shadow hand?
It must be a shadow. Don't tell.
The shadow hand of Moneypenny. It sounds like an old radio show.
It sounds like I need a new James Bond. I'm going to have to go recruiting, I think.
There you go. Have things gotten better? I think it's a very easy rhetorical question to answer technically. But I think it's something that people should really pay attention to, like, making, points of reference, a line in the sand, like what would it take for folks to get to action? What would it take for somebody to do something, like, and you don't have to state it publicly, but just, brood on this idea, each individual, like where's your line in the sand where you will get to a point where you're like, you know what? I'm going to fucking do something. Everybody needs to start thinking about that, because doing nothing accomplishes nothing 100% of the time. And if you're not willing to do anything or something, I'm just going to say you're part of the problem. That they've manufactured you into compliance. If you're a compliant individual contemporarily, you're totally part of the problem. I see Wolf's got his hand up.
I want to riff off of that, and I missed a point I wanted to make earlier. Thank you for reiterating what you just said. One of the elements of market testing, right, surveying, advertising, polling, is a call and response like Marco Polo. So many of these narratives are floated, and many bizarre twists to narratives are floated to see where the herd might likely follow the social inertia, right? Or the social momentum. I'm sorry, not inertia, the social momentum in thinking or concluding certain things about topics, people, persons. And that allows them, of course, just anyone engaged in social engineering and marketing behavior and propaganda, that allows them then to anticipate and model what your responses may be according to other data sets, right, from other markets that are undergoing that kind of market testing. Think of it as marketing, and then can be kind of mixed together in an alchemy of social engineering. I know that sounds perhaps far-fetched, but if you think about a distributed, compartmentalized, military intelligence operation, right, a social engineering version of the Manhattan Project, you can look at all social media and all public discourse not as necessarily being bad or unhealthy for you, but as fertile territory for extraction. And if you're not extracting from it, someone else is. And you may not even be able to imagine what they're extracting from it. So look at other areas of life, right, where people are perturbed or agitated. They react certain ways. That provides, like a boxer, right, in a ring, offering jabs and feints and sidesteps, that allows them to map out potential future behaviors, or more importantly, future public opinion momentum, and possibly sculpt it the way someone using a martial art like judo or aikido will use your energy. But the trick is they're going to cultivate your momentum. They're going to cultivate the direction of your pivot and then use it against you. Make sense?
Absolutely, especially when you put it in this situation like a boxer. It's not necessarily about knowing, like, I'm going to swing my hand and punch Wolf in the head. Sometimes it's about knowing I'm going to have to jab here, jab there, feint there, and then I know eventually his head, I will get him to place it at the spot 6 punches from now that I need it to be.
Correct.
It's like chess, but with fists.
I call it semiotic judo, because semiotics, signs, meaning, symbol, it's involved in that. It's a form of cognitive warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Or essentially, and cognitive warfare is just a fancy way of saying people competing with other people for things they find valuable.
Absolutely. Battle of resources. That's all this stuff really seems to be, is the haves and the have-nots and the mismanagement of the things that are needed by all. But it does look like Gene's got his hand up again.
This time I did. Yeah, thanks.
Nice.
No, that's, great to, just build off of what you were saying earlier, Eric, about the, this kind of self-control aspect of it, what's, where we were like, listen, we have to keep each other accountable now. 8 p.m. the phones go on silence, they go down. An hour and a half before bedtime, let's stop this sort of being on it right up until we're, getting ready to close our eyes kind of thing, and make sure we are, carving out just our own time. And, whether we play cards or do, whatever, to watch a movie, but just get rid of it, particularly before bedtime. And as we go to do things around the house, I'm like, same thing, put it down. Let's go do what we need to do. And so we're not in the middle of something and getting distracted by rings or buzzes or whatever else. And it's just amazing how much, number one, how much better you feel. Number two, how much discipline it does take now to not feel connected to the device, and to break that chain.
Absolutely. I think, as you were just saying that, I thought in my head, what's way better than social media circles is actual real social circles. As much as this is an engaging conversation with Gene and Wolf and Moneypenny and Moose, I see Daz down there too. I imagine that if we were sitting around a campfire under the stars and having a conversation, that conversation would be way better than this one. And there's a reason for that. Go ahead, Wolf.
What Gene offered made me think of, fasting. And when you eat clean, right, you try and make, yourself eat a clean diet for a few days or a couple of weeks. Which is why doom scrolling and social media, knowing that there's a me observing, there's a me that can think, there's an I or a me, right? That recursion of identity, right? That human dimension of intellect. Before we had that, we were primates for millions of years, and all those substrate primate troop dynamics are involved. And one of those is what's loosely termed the monkey reflex, right? We see something going on. Ooh, 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 what's that, right? An accident, a scandal, gossip, someone's fighting, someone that looks good, someone that, is noticeable, right? The fear of missing out, the fear of salacious gossip, all of that can be data points, right, for social hierarchy positioning, which we engaged in for uncounted millions or even hundreds of thousands or millions of years before we were cultured, language using, fully modern human beings. And that dynamic still exists. And social media, right, it returns to those root protocols, but it allows us now to do that remotely and parasocially. And new is not better in this case, right? The authenticity of meat space I don't think can be meaningfully replicated in social media space. We know that, right? We all know that.
Not even close could it deliver. It's funny that you're putting this out there too, Wolf, because I'm sure people have noticed I've been a bit preoccupied doing much less time with spaces and online activity, and it feels great. To be completely honest, this morning I was sitting there getting ready to, schedule this X space, the Cawffee Tawk, and I was even thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe I won't even do it today. It's so nice to not be on the internet that much lately. I'm not here because I love this stuff. I'm here because I have to be. I accepted a mission, so to say, to champion this cause, and I do it because I have to. That's pretty much it. Like, if I wasn't doing this whole directed energy weapons thing and getting some truth out there, folks, I wouldn't be on the internet. I wouldn't have a cell phone. I'd have a pager. You could page me if you wanted to call me. Everybody else has a cell phone. If I walked up with a pager to someone else, it was like, can I use your phone for a second? That's just, I could figure it out. So it just is what it is. Like, I hear what you're saying, Wolf. Like, the value to being online is not the same value to engaging people in real life. I'm partial towards real life engagements. I'm here because I have to be, and I will willingly limit it as much as life allows. Like, I won't gripe, oh, I've been so busy lately, I can't be on the internet. No, it's fucking awesome that I have an excuse to not be on.
I'm thankful and happy that you're, excuse me, doing it for real. I mean it. We need more people like you. I wish, I want to be a part of this and help with it to the best of, to the extent that we can. Yeah, man.
I appreciate that. And with that being said, I'll do the shameless plug. People can help me. And it really does help when people engage my page, my information. I ain't gonna lie, I'm here because I'm a man on a mission, and that mission is to get the truth out there, and many hands makes light work. So anybody that wants to assist me by moving this information around, I'll thank you in advance. I appreciate it.
Eric, once this mission reaches a conclusion phase for you, and you take a break or a rest, or you reconfigure your social media usage and so on, I hope you will uptake a new mission, which is to kind of serve as a wiser older uncle, or perhaps a gentle mentor to other people in terms of critical thinking, evidence analysis, and power framing. Of course, scale it back to a level that's healthy and sustainable for yourself. But if the experience and the technique and the strategy you develop is not repurposed later on, I think it will reduce the overall value that you will have been able to extract from this experience.
Is everyone talking?
I
You're
think
not
Eric
in
might
here.
have a
Who
mic
let you in?
problem, Gaz.
Hello,
Who let
everybody.
you in? Hello, darling. You're
I
right.
came in through the back door.
Now, nobody's got to talk about it, but Daz and I do fantastic dance routines together, don't we, Daz?
Yeah, we really know how to boogie, don't we? I love that pose. Like, when I saw it, it took me about a day to finally watch it because I was just so busy. But I loved it.
I did a movie. I love making my AI movies, but I did one of Daz and I reenacting the favorite song of Melania, which is a Michael Jackson hit. And we
Oh
are
my God.
dancing.
You're going to get people talking, Money Penny. They're already talking.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to
dear.
jump. My mic had frozen up after Wolf had made his statement about my future endeavors. And I appreciate that, Wolf, and I'll absolutely take that into consideration. My first thought is, man, I really hope that day comes soon where I get to choose a different path than the one I'm obliged to right now. But it is what it is. As a tradesman, I value that I'm at a point in my career where I already look at my efforts to be more about passing on the knowledge that I've gained through my career to the next generation. So my mind can look at that activity outside of the trade craft as well. That yes, I'm becoming a village elder apparently. So yeah, I can see that. There can be a healthy level of engagement and information transfer, and then even, I mean, with that said, I suggest that people right now start engaging in some sort of practice of regulating their time around technology. So I have said this before, you know, there was the planking challenge many years ago. That was all the rage, you know. I can plank for 30 seconds. I can plank for 2 minutes. I can plank for 20 minutes. I think people should start working on exiting your home without your phone. Go somewhere without it. Go do one chore or errand for 20 minutes. Then go and do 2 hours worth of errands and chores without your phone. Right? And then if this sounds challenging to you, then it's all the more reason you should engage it until it becomes not a challenge. Like if you can't do what I'm saying, then you really need to do what I'm saying. Like it really is that simple. People are probably going, well, how would I function? How would I get to the store? How would I use the GPS? Well, get rid of those crutches and learn to walk on your own. Watch how cool it feels. Daz, I see you got your hand up. Fire away.
Hi, Eric. Yeah, no, I mean, I just kind of came up when I heard you say that you need Cawffee Talk. I was like, what? Like, excuse me, you're already depriving us for like, 5 days a week and it's weekends, and now you're nearly going to pull us, take that away as well. Like, you can't, like, don't do it. It's
Well,
fair.
it's not a threat in the slightest capacity, Daz. It's just me expressing how wonderful I feel to not be tethered as much as I was. I mean, honestly, I was doing as much as I could with the time available to me for championing that cause. The amount of time that is afforded to me to champion that cause has lessened. And I'll be honest, it feels good. Like that's my honest assessment, right? I'll continue to do as much as I can because I have to. But I'm just being honest that it's more an action of obligation than it is of enjoyment.
No, I get it. I think many of us can identify with the, unhealthy relationship we probably all have with not only social media, but our phones in general. Like literally when you were saying, just like try and go out and don't have your phone. I think.
Oh, shoot, you're breaking up on me, Daz, and I really want to hear your answer.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can.
No, I was just saying, you just suggesting to not do, have your phone with you.
Right. I'm not hearing you again. I wonder if it's me. going to try switching over.
Eric, maybe a moment to sort out his mic.
Yeah, give me a second here because I heard woof.
Daz can't. Daz is speaking, and apparently you and he can't hear each other. So
Yeah, let me.
Well, what you do, drop me down and then bring me back up, and usually that fixes it. Yeah, I'll go down.
Daz suggests he's going to drop down and then come back up.
I can hear you, Eric, but your quality
Okay.
sound is very poor all of a sudden.
I just switched over to the cell phone because I probably have to boot the laptop side of it. What I've noticed is that if I stay on either side of the setup for too long, things start to seize up. So I just jumped onto the phone. Can you folks hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. Mic
Yeah,
check.
good.
Excellent. And I can hear you too, Daz. So
And you hear me now.
yes, and I'm very interested about what you were saying about your thoughts on leaving the
The wave of anxiety I felt. My God, like, how could I manage? How could I cope? Like, I'm literally like in the gym training, and I'm still like on Spaces or like messaging people. Like, it's just, it has become too much.
I'm so glad you can, Daz. That is exactly my point. Is that I believe that would be most people's immediate response, and that shows to me the level of addiction you are harboring in regards to the technology, and I will double down on the need for you to do exactly what I prescribed. You should start working on distancing yourself, because look at what you just said your response was.
I know. The thing is, I do have an addictive personality. Like, I recognize that. I think recently I've, like, even like Ursula's, like, you're so addicted to Spaces. A little bit more fluid with my timetable. So I'm now finding myself in fucking Spaces, sorry to swear, like,
Will learn that the previous addiction to the false reality was in fact time and efforts, and reduces your overall enjoyment. I mean, you're telling me right now that the idea of distancing yourself from your phone causes you. That's not healthy.
it's not healthy. It's not healthy.
Not healthy.
It happened, Eric, and I'm just honest. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people wouldn't admit it, but I
love it. I love it. I'm so
I
happy.
literally felt it.
I'm so happy that you admitted that honesty, because I think most would refuse to admit it. And I don't even think I actually need to suggest to you the path anymore. I think you're becoming cognizant of what you need to do. And I believe you are going to start changing how you function.
I would use it more in moderation, but as I've got the mic, can I just please say thank you to Gene? Eric, he was in Logan's Space yesterday, and I think I listened to him for about 2 or 3 hours. Oh my God, like, I knew he was cool and accomplished, because obviously he's connected with you and I've seen him in the Spaces and that, but I didn't realize how awesome, you know? And I have to apologize because he then came to Space, and I feel like the combination of having drunk friends and being attacked on here for the past 4 weeks, it kind of turned into a little bit of, you know, we went off topic, let's just say. And I felt I did invite him to come, and he only got a snippet of what I really hoped that I would have got from him. He's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm saying. So I'm just acknowledging that sometimes Spaces go.
Just bringing Gene back up to the stage, and nothing makes a guy from Boston cooler than when he starts chilling with a New Yorker.
No,
that. No worries whatsoever. I know how those things go. I think it was still a great conversation. And I love your spaces. I love what you do, the energy you try to out there, and
trying to improve himself, world. And he may not be perfect in every way, shape, or form. Nobody is. But my appreciation for Daz comes first. He doesn't pull punches, and is open to actually considering other people's perspectives for real. A lot of people say that. Daz is one of people that I can say I've witnessed it time and time again. I've put contrary information in front of him, and he considers it. Has even applied it at times, contrary to his previous position. Daz is a very open-minded human being.
person, and I think now on the contrary, just because others don't do
Absolutely.
it. You know?
Yeah. You are open because you have the strength to do that. For the benefit of their own person. Good for you.
yeah, and if I can just echo, Eric's comments, Daz. I mean, it is beautiful things happen in your space. And, that's a rarity. Again, I'm one to separate signal from noise and call bullshit out. And I can honor that they're just beautiful things.
Coming from you, that is a huge compliment. And yeah, I'm going to be following Gene around a lot more now, guys. Be prepared. He now has another little stalker. Awesome. So, no, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Cawffee Tawk is what makes the world go round.
Are you doing it tomorrow as well? Is that the new schedule? Is it like Saturdays and Sundays, just so that I know?
I'm way more. My brain fires better in the morning than in the evenings. I feel like a dumbass at night, so it's challenging for me to grab a mic at night. But yeah, I plan on doing Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, no, you got to do what you got to do. But I appreciate everything that you bring. And last one, you and Gene, as you're both whistleblowers, does that mean that you guys knew each other from before X?
he came into my spaces. I can recall that prior to us conversing in my spaces, that were like, you need to get Gene's. I know I kept forgetting to do that. But when we started speaking, I remembered, I'm like, this is that guy that people said that I should get.
Similarly, sort of saw Eric's stories pop up here and there, and then
I kind of felt like Howard Stern for a while, doing the morning thing with great regularity. Growing up on Stern, I was just like, yeah, it's kind of like that, I guess. Like, bold. I did, back in the day, I've stopped listening to Stern.
yeah, I mean, I always loved, and I listened to him when I in 92, 91, 92, when I was stationed in DC. And then I was stationed up in Dover, Delaware, and used to be able to pick him up on when he was in Philly. Then, went overseas, obviously.
Took things way too far. He had the dream job of lifetime, and he would follow incredibly funny. And is there dead air?
Sorry, I was just talking to the dog.
Some of them are in. And sometimes it only takes one is correct. But there's a lot that most people don't know. And the thing that's frustrating is when you learn things, you try to go talk to your friend, they give you that glazed look, and you know, it's kind of like, well, I guess I can't talk about this stuff.
Hand up, we'll fire away.
Yeah, I'm curious to pick your brain about something, Eric, or just.
You know something? I've heard a lot of criticism, dark side, so to say, but not have. Guess I would lack enough understanding to make an assessment, but apparently he's not who he used to be.
Freedom of choice in terms of what they put into their bodies, medical treatment, and social censorship completely showed that he had given in, right? He had actually failed as a human being, not irrecoverably, but he had failed and given into fear and to arrogance and to pride. And he reminds me very much of Noam Chomsky in that regard, when Chomsky, came out on record as saying, they have to segregate themselves if they're not getting vaccinated. Well, how do they get food? He said, well, that's their problem, right? Two people who once were so brave in terms of their social courage were reduced to, knock-kneed, trembling cowards in the public eye, yet they defended their cowardice, right? It shocked me to my core to see those two people turn around, right? To do a volte-face in the context of their previous courage. It was disappointing, but also not unexpected in this sense only. We're all flawed. We're all failures. Hold no heroes.
He also abused Jackie Martling over that topic from that day and for the next 10 years. And so he was extraordinarily cruel to people also. He was, man. He ripped. They made that a focus of the show for years.
Oh, they totally did. They tore Jackie apart with great regularity.
Remember the puppet that he had? He had that wooden Jackie, the joke man. They had a puppet.
Oh, yeah. That was good stuff.
Had the same teeth and haircut.
Yeah. I mean, there was a golden era of the Stern Show for sure. One of my favorites was Fred, and him dropping the sound bites like a wizard. He was awesome.
Yeah, and he had the old tape system. I forget what it's called, but it was like these 3-second ready to go little cassettes that he had walls and drawers of that he would pipe in there. He would do that in real time, and he was a magician. He he would never miss, and he was always right on time with like just an incredible wealth of sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was talent back then.
Yeah, I think he's maybe a textbook example of the corrupting power of money and ideology when they mix.
Yep.
Creates this perfect storm.
I think oftentimes, my observation of being around uber wealthy people is that it creates fear. I mean, I've heard other people say this, that the biggest fear for people with money is losing the money. It becomes such an insulator for them, and they will do really horrible things to make sure that they maintain that insulation layer.
Yeah, so true. I had a situation with a guy. I was a partner, one of 7 in a small firm at one point, and we were doing government contracting work and working with another guy who did government contracting work, and he flew around. He had bought a former Special Forces jet, was all black, had all the old holdings for, specialized equipment and shit like that. And man, he loved that jet. But every decision that he made, and I used to warn, the partners about, I said, listen, this guy is thinking he has to pay for a jet at the end of the month. He has to make that note or pay that bill. And, as he's trying to position, I was warning the partners. I was like, guys, when it comes time, we're operating somewhat on some gentlemen's agreements here. And he's trying to make some moves and saying, I'll take care of you. But I'm telling you, when it comes time to cut that check, he's going to step back and be like, oh, no, I laid out the scenario. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm out. I divested. I was like, good luck to all of you. And he did exactly what I said he was going to do when that big check got written. And everybody came back and they were like, oh, yeah, I guess you were right. I was like, of course I was right. He needs to pay for a fucking jet.
Sadly, what I've noticed about rich people is they have lots of money because they don't write the checks to those that they should. It's pretty much that simple.
Yeah, and everybody was so enamored with, flying on the jet and, the use we had of it. And like, that's great, but this ain't happening because he's a nice guy.
Part of me does miss the collection process from back in the day in New York. It was funny going to people's homes that had so much to lose as an individual that had almost nothing to lose. I've negotiated with billionaires. I've never lost one.
And I'll tell you, in my world, in the oil and gas world, I got a lot of, billionaire, multi-billionaire friends that you'd never know were that way. They've managed to maintain, their understanding of reality to an extent. They certainly enjoy themselves, but yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, their power position typically comes from people caring that they're billionaires and that their money matters. If you do not buy into that, they have no power, and they know that. It's really fun and funny to get in these engagements with these folks, because the only power that they have is the power we give them. If you don't give them that, they realize that you're not giving them that, they instantaneously realize they have no power. That's one of the things that scares them the most, which is why I won the negotiations. The power of no is more powerful than most people think.
Oh, that is, you know, that was corporate lesson number one. I gave to Natalia when she immigrated and started doing contracting. And, you know, as she was running into things and she's like, oh, you know, is this? I was like, yeah, you know, again, trying to just explain U.S. corporate culture versus European. And I told her that. I said, just say no. Don't say anything else.
Right.
Don't justify it. Don't qualify it.
Exactly.
Don't, I'm sorry. Just say no.
One
and then
syllable.
let the silence sit. I go, and you're going to be amazed at what happens.
Gene, have you ever... Oh. Sorry, my mic just got goofy. Gene, have you ever read the book Verbal Judo?
No, I hear you talking about it all the time. My book was always The 48 Laws of Power.
Oh, I had that one recommended to me, actually. I have not read it yet.
It's a good book.
Mm-hmm. Wolf, I see you got your hand up. Fire away.
I wanted to riff off of the power of no. When we are offered, you know, these wonderful, noble, you know, framed in democracy and protection, you know, choices in air quotes, and when we are, you know, told that, you know, this is up to you and you have your consent, when you do say no, what happens more often than not? The mask comes right off,
Mm-hmm.
which should immediately inform you that all of the preamble about choice and democracy and protection, that was bait, or that was anesthetic for the needle that's coming. What really happens when you do say no? Right? You often then are castigated. You are told that you are a racist or a fascist or a Nazi or a sexist or a grandma killer or anti-American or anti-this or that, right? You are now suddenly slandered with slogans and labels rather than having the entire matter of consent reframed, right? To distract from that idea of consent, especially informed consent. So that power of no, right? The power of compliance is the most important power we in our masses, all right, our millions have. And yet we don't quite appreciate the value it has, especially when we are able to cooperate and coordinate with one another. That one simple word, no thank you, right? Not now. No more than that. Even just the not now. Just no thank you. Well, why not? I don't really want to talk about it now, but I'm not going to be persuaded now. Thank you. People lose their shit when you do that.
I think when you wield the word no, what you will find is people wind up presenting their true colors and true agendas, which I would suggest folks get more in the practice of saying no as a very easy method to ascertain that truth.
And I think it saves, a lot of time in some circumstances. I know.
Totally.
Where I've been like, no, I'm not going to do that, and then just the old, ready to walk away. Then all of a sudden you see all the alternatives that are available.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we make this happen? Well, I need this, and this, and then, I'd be happy to. Oh, okay. We can make that happen. Great.
Yeah, there is efficiency to its application. Daz, I see you got your hand up again. Fire away, sir.
Thank you. I only put my hand up because I feel like as much as I love this conversation, and yes, no is a complete sentence. It's very powerful words. It's your boundaries, isn't it? I want to answer the question. Have things gotten better? Is that okay?
Yes, sir. By all means.
I feel like it's such a complicated question. I was looking at it and I've been pondering it while she was talking about it. And I feel like coming from my perspective, someone who holds three marginalized identities, who used to work in the LGBT community about 15 years ago, I had thought things had got better from that perspective. I thought society was finally becoming accepting. But no, it hasn't. It looks like we're going backwards in certain respects. So that's from one angle, right? But from the angle of, like, say, being a truth seeker, and you see like the Epstein files coming out and all of that kind of stuff, as dark as that is, and that's really kind of impacting me internally, just because I've got some of those things in my story, I still think the fact that so much of that darkness that was happening for so many years is now coming to light and, you know, hitting the mass consciousness. I can only see things getting better from that point. And then I think from a spiritual perspective, in terms of consciousness, I think all of those things do represent a shift, like a tug of war of, like, you know, people are trying to pull us back into like being more racist or more homophobic, right? But I see it as this tug of war, and I do think that ultimately things are getting better, but something new is on the horizon. It just hasn't been born yet.
I would just like to hope that you are correct, without necessarily having observed the things that would make that come to fruition. I would rather be wrong. Go for it, Wolf.
I have to delve into the realm of unkindness, Daz, and I don't mean this personally. Forgive me. I'm going to have to say some hurtful words, and I don't mean to hurt you, but they're going to be perceived as hurtful because of what you just said. The fact that you are able to me, unironically offer that you have, quote, 3 marginalized identities, unquote, is an expression of the root cause of the problem that you're actually afflicted with. You don't have any marginalized identities. You're you. And this is very trite for me to say because we don't really know each other. But that framing is a weaponized framing to make you the recipient, right, of direction in your life rather than anything else. There's no such thing as a marginalized identity. This is modern cult speak that I hope you're able to purge out of your mind.
I can follow what you're saying there, Wolf, and I think you put it to words better than I did. Daz, obviously, you know, I have no issues with you, Bob, all that stuff, right? But, you know, you're very open that you're a gay man, and I would just say that I feel for you because I would say your lifestyle has been weaponized. Right, like I have no problem with you. So, like,
yes.
You know,
so is my race, though.
Absolutely, yes. Race has been weaponized.
Right?
Yeah, all of this stuff has just been weaponized. Like I think of it like, was it? I think it was Goebbels during the Nuremberg trials when they were talking about the atrocities of Germany, and he said something to the. They said, you know, Herr Goebbels, you know, how was it that you guys accomplished what you accomplished? You know, how did you get these people to war with each other? And basically, he said something to the tune of like, you know, obviously the common man has no problem with the other common men, but we can, you know, we can cause trouble, we can disrupt things, and then those that don't, you know, follow suit, we call pacifists, all of this stuff. So I think of that idea of, you know, how do we incite people to war in a conventional sense is similar to, you know, how do we conversationally get people to war with each other. Daz, you're a common man. I have no problems with you, but I see a society around us that's sowing the seeds of discord to weaponize these topics. I mean, to be completely honest with you, as a straight man, I don't think about gay. It doesn't fucking matter to me.
Because you're in a heteronormative reality.
No, just because I just don't care, Daz. Because I see the topic as a manufactured incendiary topic.
And you will. You will,
right?
Because your reality is not impacted by those things. And
correct.
I'm going to be frank and blunt,
I agree. My reality is not impacted by those things.
As a black person,
but seeing a society where the weapons of war, these social platforms, are being loaded with the ammunition to incite conflict, I sit back and observe and go, wow, look at how these topics are being wielded, right? Like technically even just your response, like, well, you don't care because you're not gay. Well, yeah, like I don't care about vegetarianism either, because I'm not a vegetarian.
All right, can you let me
Go for it.
have a say?
Yeah.
One, I never said that you didn't care. I said you're not
Fair enough.
impacted.
Fair enough. My misuse
I
of
said you're
words.
not, but it's interesting that you heard that. Yeah, I'm very particular with my
Mm-hmm.
words, and I'm very conscientious as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never say that to you. I said you're not impacted by it. If you don't come from the marginalized identities, quite frankly, neither of you are really going to be able to speak to me about it because it's my reality.
Right, but to
No,
identify as a marginalized thing to go ahead.
Please allow me to finish,
Go ahead.
right? Because you guys need to understand this isn't something that has just been bestowed upon me. This isn't something that is just my mentality. This is a reality that has gone back for centuries. If I just talk about race, for example, the historical context, pain and injustice that has happened, I'm not really going to allow anybody to turn around and say to me that, oh, it's just a weaponized thing into today's current society. It's not.
I am.
And no,
I can prove it. I can prove it. I come from a more marginalized group. Oh, my mic just got. Hold on.
Did we lose Eric?
Hold on, my mic just did a weird thing. Daz, you're choosing. You're choosing
Eric,
to
you need
identify.
Stop a moment. You're coming in and out. Forgive me for trespass.
No worries.
But
Do you hear me better now?
Up and down.
Do you hear me better now?
But
yeah, you're back, mate.
Yes, but you need to wind back a little bit to I can prove it.
Got you. Yes. So, Daz, again, as an individual, I have no problems with you. So don't take this personally. This is more of an issue with society, right? I find it odd that you're choosing to identify with what you're calling your marginalized self. You can just simply not engage that, right? And because I don't do this typically, but I'm gonna throw this. Daz, I belong to a more marginalized group.
I'm having a hard time believing that.
Really? So there are people that are out there that champion the cause of Daz's marginalized group. So therefore, because let me finish. So because there are champions for that marginalized group, I will suggest that group is less marginalized than mine because there are no champions for my marginalized group. There are no protests in the streets. There are no flags. There are no songs. There are no conventions.
What's your marginalized group?
I'm a plumber. Everybody looks down on us, Daz.
Dude, you guys have a union.
But there's no social folks that are fighting to champion against all the pejorative things that people say about plumbers all the time. Plumbers are super marginalized. Why does everybody think plumbers are dumb?
Plumbers have leverage.
I have a question. Is there a single group in Western cultures now, England, America, the United Kingdom, Canada, and United States, right, the West in general, is there a single group where it is actually allowed to openly state, you don't qualify to be hired here because of your immutable characteristics? Can anyone point to a group
I know that
identity?
I've heard a lot of white people since I've been on social media say this, and I really think that if that's the case, then yeah, that's a shame. But then at the same time, how many black people blatantly didn't get hired because they were black, even in America?
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking a pointed question. Is there an identifiable group in Western civilization that at this moment and for the past maybe 30 years has increasingly been built up as okay to openly discriminate against and to denigrate any criticism of that open that open discrimination as being somehow serving some hidden racial supremacist agenda, right? In other words, the case is opened, it's prosecuted, it's judged, it's closed without any input from that people who are openly discriminated against. I'm not asking if it's justifiable. I'm not asking if you've had experience with it. What I'm asking is, can any of you with a mic right now point to a single identifiable group of human beings who, based on their immutable genetic characteristics, are openly and publicly justifiably excluded from consideration under our otherwise normally equal before the law system. Can any of you point to a single group like that?
I can't think of one.
I can. Straight white men.
I knew he was going to say that. That's why I literally jumped in, because I've heard many people say this, right? And that's why I pointed out. But that's why I pointed out. Look at the historical context, and even if that is the case,
about the historical
but that's where it's coming from, though, Wolf.
No,
that's where it's coming from. Yes, it is.
No, it's not. You are now engaged in narrative laundering. I'm not asking if group blame and inherited sin are justified. I don't believe they are, but that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking if you can point to a single group where it's openly okay to discriminate against them and then justify that discrimination based on the idea of inherited sin and collective blame.
I think it's very interesting that you're talking to me about, straight white men being marginalized. No, well, talking to the group about straight white men being discriminated, but then you pointed out the fact that I just mentioned about my three marginalized identities and how that was such a, terrible thing for me to hold on to. And now you're talking about the disadvantage. No, I'm just pointing out the irony here. And let me also say that when it comes to my marginalized identities, I do not identify with them. I literally do it to get a reaction. That's why I do it.
So do you suspect that I'm unaware of the irony you just pointed out, or perhaps that I'm using it to make a Socratic point? Think about that. Now, my question still has not been addressed. Now that I've framed things more carefully, can any of you point to a single group of human beings on Earth right now in the West who are openly discriminated against and have that open discrimination justified by invoking collective blame and inherited sin?
I just personally think that this
with Trump as your president, really
crazy conversation. I just don't see why that has to happen.
Now you see, now Trump comes into things. Trump's brains could be on fire, and I wouldn't piss in his ear. I don't care about that man. I'm not talking about him. My question still hasn't been addressed. So I'd like to know, Eric, let me be pointed. Is what I'm saying, does it make sense to you? Is there any group?
I follow what you're saying. I did not think of that myself, but I can see what you're saying, and I can actually express that as an older white male. Yes, it's becoming harder and harder to find employment, especially as an older white male whistleblower. So yes. And this is why I don't like people firing from the angle of their marginalized identification, because I believe this is just the some result of the seeding of division. It's like bickering about religion, right? Like, I'm more marginalized than you. Like, that's all I hear technically.
Yeah,
be who you are. If you're going to start coming at me talking about how you're a marginalized individual, to me, right off the bat, all I hear technically is how much Kool-Aid you drank.
No. Again, I'm just reminding you all of the historical context, and if you don't know it, then I suggest you do some reading in terms of.
Honestly, Daz, I don't really care about. I'll be frank. The historical context. That's a whole bunch of people.
Say to me that you don't care about the historical context.
I don't, because to me, what I hear is somebody appropriating somebody else's problem from the past and making it their own.
No. Because now you're denying my reality, Eric.
No. I'm denying your association to someone else's reality.
No, well, excuse me. I'm a gay black person.
You talked about historical issues versus your own experience.
In society, you have no idea of the disadvantages that I've had to go through by being gay. I literally lost my entire family and community for 20 years.
Right, but now this is a battle. This is what I just said about the marginalized stuff. It's a battle of who's more marginalized. You have no idea the things that I've gone through being a white heterosexual male.
When I responded, and I feel for you, but when I responded to the question,
I don't think you feel enough. I don't think you appreciate the woes of white, heterosexual, old plumber whistleblowers. I think my life's been much harder than yours, Daz.
But I did not focus on the marginalized identity.
I think you need to read more books about the history of white, male, heterosexual plumber whistleblowers to appreciate how hard my life has been. I think you are not appreciating that my life's been much harder than yours. You've had the easy life, I think.
Eric, stop it, because I did not come up here making it about this topic. I was responding to the question, and I literally put 3 different planes of consciousness. The marginalized identities was only one aspect, and it was Wolf who chose to kind of like hone in on that. And now I'm just standing up for myself.
I just think it's a peculiar angle to come from, Daz, by identifying with the marginalized aspect of things.
I just answering the question, have things gotten better? And clearly they haven't. Clearly they haven't, because we're having this conversation with a black gay person, and you're there trying to minimize not only the reality of me, but the oppression that people have experienced. Now,
okay, in that vein, I can follow. Yes, it has not gotten better for you, but I would suggest that what you're putting forth is how do I say this? Self-inflicted wounds.
And I'm the person who's had to deal with that because of society. I wouldn't say it's self-inflicted. It's something that I have to rise above and
that's right.
From.
I think the rising above part, Daz, comes from first and foremost separating yourself from looking at it as being part of a marginalized group.
And I hear where you're coming from, and I know you're coming from a place of
I'm trying. Like I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to have a real conversation, because I could certainly choose to look at myself as being in a marginalized category, but I don't. And I think I'm better for that.
Yeah, no, this is fair enough. Yeah, I try not to over-identify with it, but it's a way for me to express, the different struggles that I've had to hold and I guess overcome. For you guys to minimize it, that is a little bit hard for me. But Wolf did say it's gonna be difficult to hear, but that's fine. I can have those conversations because I think
I forget who said it in the past. Somebody said something back in the day. If you label me, you negate me. Okay, so what my observation does is you're labeling yourself. So in a way, you're negating who you are by choosing to identify under the label of a marginalized group, and you can just simply choose to stop doing that.
I mean, that's true. I just want to say that I personally do feel, I mean, like, I don't care who it is, if it's Daz or if it's someone else that's like just giving a little background on who they are in life. But I see what you're saying. I don't know. I'm learning, but I feel, I don't know. I don't feel like I don't have the reason to explain to somebody else why I'm marginalized. I mean, I got enough problems.
I see.
I wasn't explaining to anybody, was I? It was literally answering the question in terms of have things gotten better, and I literally just put that as in to provide context from my perspective. And you guys are like trying to like be like, well, you shouldn't even have that in your consciousness. It's like, hold on, it's not my fault that society has had all of these different groups suppressed and oppressed. Like, and it feels like you guys are ignoring the fact that this is the society we live in. And that's why I'm confused.
Well, we create that society in our own heads, so it's our own fault.
Yeah, like in a way, like Daz, so like in a way, like, yes, I hear what you're saying, but I also feel like Jiminy Cricket's like the cure for your woes is in your own hands, and you can wield it any day you choose.
Yeah. No, I hear that.
Right? By just simply no longer identifying as being marginalized makes you no longer marginalized. It's literally that simple. So yes, I appreciate that the problems that you're associating with exist and have not gotten better. But as somebody who is interested in your mental health, you can choose to not suffer these woes by just removing yourself from the group that you're saying is marginalized. Like you have the power.
What about the group? What about the group that's in power that enforces the marginalization? Like, I'm going to be very limited. Like, yeah, I can have a positive frame of thinking, but if there still exists powers that actually do oppress, then that's going to make it a bit more difficult and tricky, isn't it?
Not really, because I think of the term perception as reality. And if you're going to allow somebody to control your perception and say, you are in a marginalized group, and you're like, yep, I'm in the marginalized group. Well, then guess what? Then you're in a marginalized group. If you change your perspective and just look at it differently, there's power in that also. I don't like this idea of saying, like, this is division. When we start dividing people into groups, by definition, is division, and division is being wielded over us. And if we refuse to be corralled by these labels that negate us, and we work together without labels of division applied, we will gain more traction in the future benefit of humanity as a whole.
Well, a lot of it, Eric, comes to our labels aren't even in a positive direction. It's more in a negative direction.
Absolutely. Correct, because it's a reminder of
positive.
Right. Yes, let's come up with better labels that promote positive versus pejorative.
I'll just jump in.
Go for it, Gene.
You know, and Daz, you asked the question about the power structures. That's where we all come in together, is to take down. So in these ways, to provide you that kind of space to say, no, you don't have to have a label on yourself, and for us to join in and fight those structures that exist. And I say it all the time. When I lived in Houston, I went to a quote unquote gay church that was in my community, had a lot of friends and everything in it and whatnot, and marched in pride with them and all. Well, I don't need to do that every year, right? It's not my community. But as a veteran, I always said I am the first one when somebody says, oh, they're going to have a parade. Good. Everybody who feels like they are part of a community and they want to go out and celebrate that community needs to be able to do that. And I will be the first one to stand a post and make sure that they have the right to do that. That is, the old veteran, the old oath thing that comes out of me. I don't care, what it is, if it's important to them, if it's important to me, the people I love and I care about and my friends, then it's going to be important to me. And I need to stand up and help them, make that space for it. And, I think the conversation how it went and Eric coming around, I see that point that, you don't want to feel like, and I think there's a lot of it. Everybody tries to out special one another with whatever label, and you can go into, you go into a mental health room sometimes and it's, who's, what's your diagnosis? And then it's, I have that plus. And it's like, Jesus, let's stop, leaning on that, and let's start, looking at resolution and getting help and whatnot. In our own lives, again, similar but different. Natalia, born Russian, fall of the Soviet Union, she got to choose: are you a Russian or are you a Latvian? And she's like, I've been born in Latvia. I've lived here my whole life. I am a Latvian. But as independence came and structures changed, when she went in for jobs, she was 7 years with the Latvian National Opera. She has colleagues who are some of the, top people in the world today. The conductor of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. He was a trumpet player, while she was in there. But because she had a Russian surname, when it was her time to rise, she was specifically told, oh no, this is the Latvian National Opera and your surname is not Latvian. You are as high as you're going to get in this organization. So all of these things manifest in so many different ways that I think everybody can find a way to relate to in our own lives. to be supportive and to speak out when we see those things.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been minimalized in our own lives by different ways. Let's not make it a competition, is just kind of where my brain goes.
But I wasn't making it a competition, no.
I
really
know.
wasn't.
Well, I know
that's how you guys heard it, and that's what
it
I'm
is.
saying.
It does.
That's
I'm trying to let you know that is how I
not at
hear
all.
it. That is how I hear it, because I feel bad that you are like so endeared to holding on to that label, right? That's what I'm kind of getting at, is that most people don't present so rapidly with their associated marginalization. It seems peculiar
But
to
I was
me.
answering the question.
I got you.
In terms of how things got, let me finish.
Yeah.
How things got better. And I was saying, as someone who worked 15 years ago in an LGBT consortium, seeing things improve, and now all of a sudden I'm in a time where everything's like anti-woke, it's woke stat, and some of the things that people think that it's literally okay to in front of me as a gay person, I had to call someone up on it yesterday in my space. So it's like, it's very interesting to me. People who don't necessarily have to experience that oppression feel that they can tell me that it's like, what, it's all in my head, or why are you leading with that? I'm leading with that because I'm actually trying to educate. Like, there's a difference with the people who actually have the lived experience to people who are just looking on the outside. And from my perspective, you guys are looking from the outside.
Of course, everybody who's not living anybody else's life is always looking from the outside. It's inherent.
Thank you, Eric. You've just crystallized down the entire point I was trying to make. I'm bursting at the seams here. I need to state for the record, first of all, I did not minimize anything you were saying, Daz. I was trying to make a point which still hasn't landed, I think. So, Eric, I would appreciate maybe 3 or 4 minutes of your time.
Go for it.
If I may. Have you, over the last 10 or so years, seen any social media clips or any TV reports or seen or heard about any job advertisements where jobs are open to only candidates with X, Y, or Z characteristics, and candidates of A, B, C characteristics are not going to be considered for that role? Have you seen or heard of such a thing?
I have.
Okay. Has the person excluded from any of those offerings ever been someone who belongs to what could be generously termed a, quote, group, unquote?
Yes.
Okay. So have you ever seen in modern times someone saying this job is open to everyone except for Catholics? No Catholics need apply. Have you ever seen a job like that?
I have not.
No. Have you ever seen a job stating this is open to anyone except someone with Down syndrome? Have you ever seen that happen?
I have not.
Okay. Have you ever seen something open where, nobody who is of Latvian descent is allowed to apply here, with exceptions X, Y, and Z? That wouldn't be legal in any of the Western jurisdictions in present
Understood.
times, correct? Okay. We can't legislate, however, people's personal opinions or their culture. So in the United States of America, a barbershop culture that I've only know about through media, the movie Next Friday or the Friday After, right? The Ice Cube movies, Black American barbershop, right? They can't legally discriminate against anyone coming in for service there, but someone could receive poor service and be discouraged from returning. But it wouldn't be legal for them to say this is, an ethnic group only business, right? They could not operate a public business that way. Yet for some reason in the West, the established authorities have allowed a vector to exist where open, legally justified discrimination has been practiced in order to justify past transgressions against present day moral and ethical norms. This entire framing is a to spin people off into identitarian oppression Olympics. The point I was trying to make was not in reference to are things getting better. It was specifically to the invocation of marginalized identity groups in and of itself as an expression of participation in society. The recording will show that I framed my query very carefully, and it was not meant to elevate or diminish any experiences in life. I was pointing to systemic, public, provable discrimination policy that is kind of excused with a wink and a sly, right? That's what I'm pointing about. That is an example of imperial power being openly exerted against a target group. And so long as the other people who aren't being targeted derive some benefit from that, and I don't mean you personally, Daz, or anyone else, I mean at the population level, they're going to be relatively quiet because thank God the boss isn't scrutinizing me, right? This is an example of divide and conquer, empire building framing. And this is what I was pointing of some corner of identity oppression coverage in order to discourse. This is a false garment and it needs to be completely issued. Go naked without it instead. My point is not that there have been previous moral and ethical crimes committed against marginalized groups in previous societies. That's unquestionable. And it is not unique to any one oppressor group or any one group being oppressed. It is a fundamentally human expression of power dynamics. To invoke modern day immutable characteristics like your race, your sexual orientation, the color of your eyes, your height, your metabolic predisposition, we recognize that going for their hardware rather than their software is illegitimate, except for that one area in life I mentioned right now in the West, which is the open, justified discrimination against approved targets of discrimination. It could be white men in the last 10 years. It could be a different group in the next 5 years. If we don't learn from the tactic, we are allowing ourselves to be fully weaponized according to someone else's battle plan. That is the gist I was getting at. And now I will shut up.
Understood. For your consideration, Daz, I would just like to offer the topic, as you mentioned, right? In your experience and your understanding,
how things got better.
Understood, but what I wanted to get at was I guess the angle of resistance that I have, okay, is based, like, I get what you're saying. It hasn't gotten better for the reason being is that keeps being fueled to make that topic so incendiary. Look what it did to the perfectly good conversation that we were having, right? It was a perfectly good conversation. And then the divisive topic that was brought in did exactly what it's been manufactured to do from decades of seeding it, fertilizing it, and watering it as a wholly incendiary topic. We witnessed it in this conversation.
I'm just not sure if it's a divisive topic.
I am.
Or if it's the actual construct of race.
It's manufactured topic to divide. Of course,
the marginalized identity is a term that kind of shrouds the LGBT and the race.
That if we're going to go that route, Daz, I'm going to go for the Olympic competition and say I've been way more marginalized than you. My life's been harder.
But to be a competition.
Why do you not care about why do you not care about the woes of my life and expect me to care about the woes of yours?
Because it wasn't asking you to care.
It kind of is.
It kind of is. My perspective.
You need to empathize with my perspective.
Well, as a plumber?
As a old white male plumber whistleblower.
But what makes you think that I don't?
That's quadruple. I have four bullet. You had 3 bullet points. I got 4.
I don't.
It sounds like you don't understand the historical problems.
Let me have a say now, because I've literally held race relation spaces, because I'm a part of the trucker community, and they're very MAGA, right? I literally said this in their space about a week ago. want to come up with it because they love me, right? I come in there, they throw me the mic. It's like Marlene, I call him Uncle Matt and all of that. Yeah, Carmen, she's doing the space now. I've done spaces with those guys, mostly white, really hearing from what it's like to be a white person in America. So don't think that I don't get that right now. The race topic is very difficult for white people. You know, it's called racial stamina. There's a book called White Fragility by Dr. Robin DiAngelo, and she terms this racial stamina, where people of color have a lot more racial stamina to even hold this conversation. Why? Because we've been born into the social construct where things have been very difficult, dare I say, marginalized for us. Now, with like certain movements, social movements, whatever, things have kind of tried to get a bit better. Now we have people like Wolf, who's like going on about white men can't get jobs. But if I started listing off all of the things that black people haven't been able, especially in America, that weren't able to allow them to get generational wealth, it's like he doesn't want to hear that. He's just thinking about the last 10 years of white people not being able to get.
Well, this is you're going right back into the competition that you said you didn't want to have.
No, but that's the point, because I wasn't trying to talk about competition. But
yet you keep competing.
He keeps coming.
You keep, Daz, you keep competing while saying it's not a competition. You keep saying that other people don't have an appreciation for the years and years and fill in the blanks. You're the one doing it.
Eric, no.
Yes.
Because Wolf is on the stage talking.
I'm here telling you that my life's been harder than yours. I've been more marginalized than you. And when I start to compete, you say you don't want to compete.
Action. He's talking about affirmative action, and he's not actually acknowledging why the civil rights laws and things like that came into play. Try and give certain disadvantaged people. You know, and it's like if you can't acknowledge the generational wealth that has been taken from black people, and now it's just like, oh my God, the last 10 can't get jobs. It's like I don't really want to hear that, because I'm very aware of the wealth that has already been taken from black people, and that's where I'm coming from.
Daz, I don't want words to my mouth. None of what you just portrayed about my words is what was being communicated by me. You are responding to an argument you've crafted that you believe I uttered, that in fact I didn't. I will not deny the fact, and I'm going to speak about North America and not the United Kingdom, that black Americans, since the time of emancipation, have been boxed in generational wealth creation.
And that's all that I'm saying. You never mentioned that.
I didn't. No, but you...
No, you never mentioned that, and that's why I'm mentioning it, because you just focused on white people not getting jobs. So even if I don't articulate it the way that you're articulating it, I'm bringing up that point, because that's what I'm hearing.
What you're hearing, thank you for saying that, because that's my point. That isn't what I was saying. None of my words were involved with that. I was pointing out that there is one group that is publicly able to be justifiably discriminated against. Right? It's fashionable to do that. Now, I'm not saying anything else other than that observation. I'm not tying it to generational wealth creation. I'm not tying it to power politics or oppression Olympics in the sense of I want to participate in that malframing of things. I'm pointing out group exists. Now, I'm not saying, oh, woe people, the whole world hates them. It's not true. But that narrative framing is an element of weaponized tribalism being fed cords of wood. Now, I don't believe it can be denied that that practice of open, legalized discrimination is happening. Is it justified? I don't believe it's morally or ethically justifiable. Some people do. I don't believe you're one of them. But you are misportraying the entire set of observations I'm making, right? If you want to have a target discussion about this, topic by topic, we have to be able to interact with each other, receiving the other person's inputs in a steel-manned and charitable fashion. And we had our emotions activated here, and I need to publicly defend myself, because what you are rephrasing as my communiques here are not what I've communicated I would challenge anyone else to maybe comment on that, please. Am I being delusional, or is my statement defensible?
I think there have been some emotions involved, and that there might have been some rephrasing, but I think it's good that we are able to discuss these things further. This happens in passionate conversations.
And that's why I'm just pointing out that I wasn't trying to get into this conversation. I was answering the questions. I used one term, and you guys were the ones who come up in there and started going down this road. And then Eric's talking about he's marginalized because he's a plumber and those things. It's just like I'm thinking to myself.
I'm agreeing with you that for answering the question, right? You answered the question. We're just taking it further. You brought the incendiary topic in. Technically, I'm just letting you know why the fire got lit. We're just having a further communication.
Cawffee Tawk.
Now,
absolutely,
but more controversial take. Pardon
me.
Well,
I just want to jump in really quick. We got this guy Zane77 that's had his hand up for a very long time, so I just want to afford him the opportunity to jump in here.
What's going on? Yeah, listen, there was a lot going on, but I think I've heard a lot of good things from everyone here. To be honest, this conversation as a whole is something that everyone is afraid to talk about. To be honest with you, from all sides, and to be able to ask yourself honestly, it's the best thing that could happen, at least from my perspective. Eric, I think when I first came into the conversation or started listening, you said something about a system, and you mentioned about decades. For me, it could even go back millennia. These types of labels, and first thing I thought about was the standard and what type of implications labels have, even in a micro setting, and what the results of that were. And if you're not familiar, that's one where they set up and established a fake correctional facility, labeled certain individuals, volunteers, as prison inmates and prison guards. And they certainly fulfilled their labels. Granted, there's some ethical issues that may have been involved in that study, but it's interesting, even with those ethical issues, how people can be influenced to act in absurd ways. And for me, there's definitely a system that's designed to help establish a better control. I'm not going to go into depth with anything else rather than it's still important, though, for individuals to understand the history behind everything. Being aware of what these systems have been designed to do and understanding the threats around you is just as important, because that is what can keep you grounded and can keep you safe from unwanted attraction per se. For me, I'm big into UFO stuff, and I'm not saying that I'm marginalized by any means in that regard, but I certainly get attacked just by my belief in what I see as a bigger truth daily. If I go out just amongst my friends, the first, but I'm able to stay calm and stay at peace and just have a conversation, be able to reflect and bounce off of it. But it doesn't mean it doesn't impact me still, that my amygdala will still react to that fight or flight action. But I just want to say that this conversation is important, and it's good because when you open up, the progress can be. So I just want to thank you all again for these conversations, and thank you for allowing me to come up.
No, you got it, Zane. I apologize for the delay on that one. As you can tell, it was a very engaging conversation, and I wanted everybody to continue their engagement. And I'm also very happy that we can have these conversations. I think Wolf is a great intellect. Daz is a great intellect. We all operate from different perspectives. We all have different experiences that are worthy of sharing. My opinion is that I'm more interested in hearing about people's own direct first-hand experiences value, but to me, in a way, it's like they use the word appropriating nowadays. So it's like, I understand the history of things, but has that been your experience? To what extent? All of those things, and then as far as the labeling and the Stanford prison experiment, really good point. We can simply just shed the labels and be the individuals. Like my label in life, I'm Eric J. Hecker. I've walked a path. That's my label. No other label fits because that's somebody else's story. That's not me. Go ahead, Daz.
Yeah, no, thanks. And I appreciate that, Zane. I think the conversations are different. That's why I will put myself in these conversations sometimes if they come up. I think also it has to be acknowledged that Eric and I have a respect for one another, where even if there are certain things that he might say where I'm like, ooh, I still know that he respects, values, and sees me. Right? Wolf, I've seen in Eric's, he's very intelligent, and I respect that, and I'm prepared to just have that conversation with you guys. I think one thing that I've learned, and one of the reasons across the races, is because when you're coming from, like, let's say the black race, for example, you know that you're black and you know that you've been disadvantaged because you see it on TV, it's spread down through the family line. You then, we're subjected to slavery movies, all of that different kind of that other races have not had that kind of experience. We're seen as a group. We're lumped in as a group, where I feel like maybe other races, i.e., for example, the white race, you're taught to be individuals. You're taught to just see it from your perspective kind of thing. And that's what I was kind of hearing where Eric was speaking. And I'm trying to explain to you that it's not that I want to have this frame of mind. It's something that has been a generational thing over time. So this is the reason why we do need to have these conversations to try and break this social construct and this programming. There's nothing personal in it. Yes, my emotions will come up, but that's because I'm connected to a race that has had a trauma in there. And if you guys want to just keep saying, oh, but you can't talk about the past, I will talk. These people, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for these people. Do you see what I'm saying? So I represent that. It's just about understanding that.
One, no one said you can't talk about the past. And again, nothing I said. In fact, I rely upon the past to inform present day analyses. Two, I am one of the people who does not believe that race is a social construct, unquote. At the same time, I to my immutable genetic characteristics, be they racial or otherwise. Human beings are a swarm species of different lineages, right? Northern Europeans and Europeans in general have traces of Neanderthal admixture, whereas very far southern African peoples, like, right, they do not have any traces of Neanderthal DNA whatsoever. By that basis alone, you can identify racial or ethnic descent, right? That's a data point that is incontrovertible, it is provable, it is repeatable, and it is investigatable by anyone today. They do belong to different racial groups, but they do belong to the same species. They are human beings reduced to a racial group is just full of danger. It's absolutely a pernicious way to accept how the world is presented to you. Race is not a social construct, but your value as a living human being reduced to any of your immutable characteristics. And to think that white people think this way about complicated topics because of whatever markers in my genetic identity can be, to white, that is, right, D'Angelo's whiteness. This is a false category error. 100 years ago, right? Someone that today we would call a white male or a white woman living in have shared, right? They were Caucasians by that genetic classification, which
Because trust me, there aren't, right? And this is not me being offensive. This is me just speaking from my experience. And therefore, they're able to kind of just step into this place of being subjected to those subliminal messages of race. And therefore, there's all these different connotations with the different groups. And those people are susceptible to that and fall into that. You're somebody transcended it. But yeah, if race isn't a social construct, then what have we been dealing with for these past couple of centuries then, Wolf?
I just told you how we treat race is the social construct. I literally just told you. You are not listening.
How we treat race.
You could have just as easily said, you wish there were more human beings that could articulate like Wolf, using the word white, technically. Like that was you technically applying racism. You made
explain in my just before he came in that as a black person, I've been raised differently when it comes to race. I've been raised within rise my consciousness out of that. My point is that if white people are not in the marginalized group, then they don't have to deal with that. So if they've got this intelligence where they're able to now articulate themselves and just completely eradicate the notion of race or sounds lovely, yeah? It sounds people have been disadvantaged, all of those. See what I'm saying? I feel like you're intelligence.
you, sir.
Well, maybe it's because I'm black.
You keep applying race to me promotes racism, which is what Wolf is saying. It's a social construct.
No, I don't.
You just articulate white man, and that
because
you wish
he is. Because he is. But if that makes you guys feel uncomfortable,
I don't. Wielding racism, I find it hard.
I wasn't complaining about race.
That of a white man that is articulate. you, Daz, everyone would say that's racist.
Kind of go down this road of highlighting racial. We're having a conversation about race, just like I pointed out that you was a white man and I pointed out that Gene's a white man. Like, it's as simple. I'm perspective. I'm trying to help you guys understand that because I come from a group that has been oppressed, and you and I hope that we will get there one day.
Social contract.
Well, you know, I'm going to have to bring the woo into everything. So my personal belief about race is that once we leave this earth, we are all the
with that. Bruce, you got your hand up. Go.
I agree with that.
And nice to see everyone. Yeah, interesting topic. Always find this interesting, particularly because I suppose I write about human origins and population genetics, like why different groups are the way they are, you know, the relationships, the constructs and race. I mean, the first thing is there is no races. I mean, a lot of people don't like that, but there is no races. There's no real way to define a race, but it's a useful term in social conversations and stuff, but you can't really actually define one. And take, for example, so we talked a lot about black people, black Aboriginal people and black sub-equatorial Africans are the two most genetically diverged human populations on the planet, right? So you think about that. So people would say black people, but those two groups are genetically furthest apart of any two groups on the planet, right? That they're also, their cultures are completely divergent, right? They've been separate for tens of thousands of years. So we can't really say black people are this, black, black. We also can't do the white. And again, I'm going to talk to white racism, which is, you know, again, racism is wrong because it's not really racist. But anyway, so let's say skin color discrimination, right? Because that is a real thing. Okay, there obviously is skin color discrimination. But if you look, and I know you guys touched on this, but if you look what happened to the Irish people in Britain not very long ago, they were in the exact same category as the black-skinned people. That, you know, it was very normal to have on shops and hotels and stuff, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs, right? So if you think about that, those people were in the exact same status. Despite being white, it was doing them no good whatsoever, because simply they were frowned upon by people who had more social power than them at that time. So a lot of the things that happen are really not very much to do with your sort of, you know, genetic origins or whatever. They're much more aligned with the social power structures at any given time, any given place, and that they don't necessarily reflect what we think of these much deeper divergences, because obviously the white English and the white Irish were way more closely related than the, you know, the black African, black Caribbean people, but yet they were being treated just as badly. So we know that, yeah, skin color differences can get frowned on. But again, even then, there is a there is a spectrum because, you know, I'm a brown person. Brown people don't feature in conversations a lot. And that's because, like, if you want to have a talk about skin color racism, brown people is really awkward to fit in. Because if you think about it, nearly everyone on the planet is brown. So we hear a lot about, you know, white people, black people, and even to some degree yellow people. You don't hear much about brown people. Why is that? Because it quickly makes the conversation as absurd as it really is. Because if we said brown people are having a bad time, you'd stop and think, what do you mean? Like the South Americans, the Indians, the people in, like, you know, Southeast Asia? Like, where the fuck are you talking about? Brown people are everywhere. And, like, obviously they're not having the same experiences. Like, they're having wildly different experiences. So we can't, it shows you cannot categorize by skin tone. It just does not work, right? And again, even within, say, people with very dark skin, people living in Africa with very dark skin are not having the same experience of people with very dark skin living in East Asia. By any way of stretching your mind, those people won't be having the same experience of standing out or being treated differently if they lived in Guinea or somewhere, right, than if they lived in, like, Thailand or somewhere, right, where there is, you know, people do look at you if you're dark, right? So I think these conversations are so nuanced and they are so particular to place, time, this local culture, local society, that I just discourage any blanket statement. Before landing my plane, I do want to touch on something that I think Eric pointed to, that obviously we live in a time where white people can be absolutely discriminated against in a way that nobody could really do to other groups for a long time, until a very long time ago. Because, I mean, a couple of years back, I read a job application for a job with, I think, with Nature or with Science, you know, a top science journal, and it was looking for a black graduate. Right? That is fucking unthinkable that you could do that about, you know, how amazing, are we looking for a white graduate? Fucking unthinkable. I looked at it, and I used to work in recruitment. It boggled my mind that someone sat down in an HR meeting and they wrote up a job application thing that looked for a black or, you know, brown graduate. That is fucking insane, to get to the point where you can openly say, no, not you. We don't like the color of your skin. And there's no way that anyone, even the most racist company in the world, would have put on their job thing that you had to be white. So we have moved into an insane time where you can openly do the stuff that people, as was pointed out before, would have been subliminally done. You would have known that you weren't welcome, but they wouldn't have told you. They'd just be like, oh, we're not really looking for, you know, someone in your circumstances. Like, people could do that. They always could do that. But now they can literally just say, we're looking for people in these particular groups. So that's what, when we flip around, where it is a discrimination against, particularly against, obviously, white men, and the white men are being portrayed as scum in many parts of society, which is crazy. Because before, at least as people that were not white, we were given the kind of that, you know, we won't say it, but you will have that experience. Whereas now it can actually be just stated that you as a white man are not welcome, which is absolutely crazy.
But all I'm going to say to that is that it was happening in the past. In America, it was literally written in the housing laws that black people couldn't go there.
There's laws in place.
So this is what I'm trying to explain. I feel for you guys that it's happening, but we can't forget the historical context. And that's all that I'm saying here.
Can I just say something?
Come on in, Augustus.
Yeah, whites are a rapidly dying minority. A rapidly dying minority. If you look at the statistics between 1950 and now in major cities in the United States, you can look at the statistics of how many white people are there then versus now, and it's a staggering leap. So in New York in 1950, it was 90% white. Guess how much it is in New York now?
Oh,
I don't
I have
think
no
it matters
idea.
so much that it's 90% white, because even the term white, as Bruce just pointed out, didn't include all people of that external appearance. So the very looseness of this term white is a part of the problem. You need to say what you mean so we know that you mean what you say, and we don't have to worry.
For sure. Because what does it mean?
It was 90% white in 1950, and now New York is less than 30% white.
Because Italians weren't even considered white. You know, Morocco, you know, there was people from all parts of Southern Europe that weren't considered white in America for a very long time. So, I mean,
I was actually just thinking that. I know a lot of old Italians from New York that tell me of a time where they were not considered white.
Not considered white. So a lot of these stuff, it doesn't mean really anything. But also, like, if all the white people in the world disappeared because they didn't want to have kids or they wanted to marry brown people, who cares, right? As long as they're like normal neighbors, I wouldn't give a shit. The thing is, like, we have to say that white people aren't being put into a genocide. They're choosing to have less children or they're marrying brown people. So, like, is that something anyone should cry about? I don't see that everyone can choose if they want to have children or they want to marry someone with the same tone as themselves. But we have these narratives about black people and white people, those things being done to them, whereas anyone can have children. Nobody stops you having more children, but people are choosing not to have children. Whose fault is that? Is that someone else's fault? It's surreal.
Guess how many white people are in Detroit now, today?
But like they said, which kind, Augustus? Which kind of white people? What are you counting? I mean, because what do these things mean? I'm light skinned. Some people will say I'm white, and some people call me, you know, an N-word. So I mean, what do we mean even by white anymore?
So what? White doesn't exist anymore, or something? Is that the argument you guys are making? White people don't exist.
I think the argument is just that we should get beyond the labels.
That's amazing. So we're allowed to have black people. We're allowed to have brown people. We're allowed to have
no, Augustus. All that.
You're all Asian people. You're allowed to have every type of person but a white person.
Got it, Augustus. But like I just said, some people will call me white. Some people call me black. Which am I? Who decides, Augustus? Who decides?
It's a social construct. Oh, sorry. Now, how does Raw say that? It's not a construct. It's how do you decide?
White people don't exist. It's a social construct. I get it. Sure. Amazing. I get your point.
It's a construct because not everyone will even agree on what it is. Like, you can't agree. Same as there's black people you look at and you would say they're white and they say they're black. There's loads of people on it because they said their family are predominantly black. And so they consider themselves black. But you'd look at them and say they're just as light as someone you'd call white. Are they white or are they black? Right? Who says? I don't know. So they decide. Right. So what does that mean if they decide? And then someone will say, but I look at them and see them as something else. So these kind of statistics are really, they're flaky because we don't really know what they're even measuring.
Augustus, I'd like to try and steel man what I think you're getting at, which is, and I've had this conversation with friends before. Let me bring up Muhammad Ali. I saw a wonderful clip of him sitting in a boxing ring speaking with I think a BBC News presenter or a British presenter, interviewer. And they were talking about race. And Muhammad Ali very easily justified, without invoking hate, why he prefers that he and his children and the people he cares about who are of Black African descent, right, choose to have families, right, and marry and procreate with people who are part of that in-group that they value, not because they denigrate people not in that in-group, but because they like their own culture, their music, their food, their values, their humor, their relationships. We see now very broadly across the world, many people from different ethnic groups, which some could more grossly label racial groups, right? However you want to think about that, right? That's not the point I want to elucidate. We see them being celebrated for choosing to keep their cultural background, their ethnic traditions alive. Ethnicity is very complicated. But I myself, as someone who comes from a mixed, white or native European background, I see that there's also one group on this in the West that is criticized when they speak in positive and healthy and non-hateful ways about continuing their traditions, their ethnicities, their customs, in the same way that Muhammad Ali spoke about protecting and preserving and continuing his culture and what he identified as his people based on racial or ethnic or other characteristics. I get that. I have no problem with that. I think it should be justified and celebrated and given the same respect and accord that anyone from any group belongs to, when they want to, on the basis of positive, free, voluntary, equal before the law consideration, choose with whom to build family, friendships, business, and community with. It should not be denied to anyone from a white or native European background. They should not be castigated for it. Nobody should be if they are engaged in voluntary behavior with other people. That is an element of the tribal poison that is being injected into society to keep us fractionated and at war with one another. And it fundamentally comes down to the ambiguity of words, which is why I myself, I don't like this term white, because it didn't include Irish people 100 years ago. It didn't include Polish people 120 years ago. It didn't include Southern Italians 200 years ago. Yet today, they can be very broadly termed white in the sense of they are right? Trying to use very careful terms, and they're very gross, like coarse terms as well. It shouldn't be denied that if you want to keep, quote, your people, unquote, alive or thriving or flourishing or existing or continuing into the future, go for it, celebrate it, do it. But the standards that apply to one must apply to the others for there to be legitimate criticism or conversation. So this term white and even black and brown, as Bruce just mentioned, they are convenient McDonald's level Happy Meal. I can think like this and now everything is safe boxes for us to be put in. Let's actually talk about the real issues at play. It's not you beside me and you one or two steps above or below me in our social pyramids of power. It's the people at the tippy top who are absolutely vested in a multi-generational project of dynasty and power. They don't belong to a single ethnic group. They don't belong to a single creed. They don't belong to a single continent on this planet. They are human beings that realize in order to succeed in their chosen group, their clade, which obviously now today goes much beyond mere race and ethnicity, not for all of them, but at their population level, in context of their metric, they have a multi-generational human institutional hybrid approach to the continuity of not just their genetic and ethnic lineages, but of their cultural and mimetic lineages. They are propagating their kind of human being into the future. Sorry for lecturing. I get animated. I apologize.
No, it's all good, Wolf. I really appreciate everybody being so engaging. This is a great conversation. This is a real conversation. That's all this is. So I appreciate everybody for joining in. This is how we accomplish things. Zane, you had your hand up. Fire away.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel inclined to kind of express, but yeah, I come from I guess some may say an interracial background, and it's definitely allowed me to see things through different lenses. Yeah, I've taken some criticism from my own family on both sides. Very interesting stuff, some of the statements that have been made. But Wolf, I did want to say, I see where you're coming from. I hear you. But as a society, when we ask, have things gotten better? I think we're growing. And I think some have certainly had the opportunity. Like I mentioned before, I can see things through different lenses at times. Where, yeah, maybe I can excel past certain things and rub off, criticisms or racial statements per se. But in the end, we're all at different levels, and there's a whole world out there that still faces this daily, and they're stuck within that system, this matrix of control. And, this conversation certainly does need to grow. So, I appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, in my mind's eye, when I hear that, I think of the real issue is the wealthy people that are wielding these weapons of division. And I feel like the more we engage this way, the more they win. I see the problems of the world being less racial and more financial. yeah, that's just where my brain goes on this stuff. Obviously, I want the world to be better, but I just wish that we didn't function by that which divides us versus that which unites us. Bruce, looks like you had your hand up. Come on in.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just join back in for a second with 2 points. One is that I think, which you've really been sort of pointing to, is I think the primary issue when we talk about the differences between people and the similarities between people and the friction points and, you know, the structure of society is culture. And again, because people, a lot of time when people are talking about these kind of racist issues or, let's say, you know, discriminative issues, that what they're talking about without ever mentioning is it's a cultural issue. And the fact is that I would much rather have someone next door to me, right, who looks physically nothing like me, but shares the culture that I have, right, shares the culture and ideally the language, because I can have normal communication with them, right, and that culturally we have so much overlapping that we will understand each other's ways, and if I have to interact with my neighbor, it's easier for me, it's more pleasant for me, right? That's not to say that I wouldn't live next to someone with a different culture, but if you said to me, what's my preference? Is living in an area where culturally the majority of people are similar to me in their culture, right? I wouldn't care if none of them were similar to me in hair, eye color, skin color, height, or any other features that you'd look at me and say I had. I wouldn't care about that. And I think people get mistaken in thinking that they're worried about immigrants coming and looking different when really, and like they're worried that the culture is going to, because that will affect them, right? It's a real effect. And so I think culture is the thing that really people mean. And if you, when you touched on before, the people at the tops of our society are culturally able to us, right? They have a culture that does not benefit us. And it doesn't fit with us. It's toxic for us, right? And so culture is a massive issue, and the trickle down from having people that are culturally alien with power above you is immense, and it is destructive, destabilizing. It becomes abhorrent to you to live in because you're being forced to live in a culture that you find repugnant to you. This is a much bigger issue than what they look like, because I don't care if someone looks identical to me, but he chases kids in the woods and eats them, right? Do I prefer him next door or the guy who just got off the boat from somewhere who just seems to have the same thing in common as me? You know what I mean? It's a real obvious one when people think about it. The other thing I want to just, before landing my plane again, is to say that we're talking about the color thing again. And this is something that the Europeans kind of did, but if you think about it, there are about 1 billion light-skinned people, just as white as any Europeans I've ever met, that live in East Asia. Right? This is really inconvenient when people say there's not enough white people. So what about all those white people that live in East Asia then? Oh, well, no, they're Asian. It's like, hang on, Asia is a place, you know, you're talking a continent. No, if you're talking about color, they are white people. Like, go there. Fucking, anyone said they're not white, fucking go there. Because all of the people that you see, like in East Asia, South Asia, the vast majority of them are just as light in their skin tone as any European people, but they don't get included in white. Wasn't convenient to the empire, so they came out yellow, right? That they were yellow. How many people have you guys seen many of these yellow people that live in Asia? Because like I went there, I didn't see these yellow people everywhere, right? So they looked just as light skinned. So it's funny how it switches category from color to continent when we deal with people in that part of the world. Suddenly they're not color people, they're Asian people, right? They're not white or brown. No, they're Asian. You know, these things don't work. They grind horribly. When you try and use that system, it doesn't function. Just as you can't talk about brown people and the struggle of the brown people, it makes no sense at all because they're everywhere around the world. But all these things, when you there's only bits of that system you can use and they function. Right? If you try to use this judgmental system based on color or based on these traits, it just falls apart once you start looking a bit closer at it, you know, because it can't even include those people. There's 1 billion people conveniently taken out of that story. There's far more white people than there are, you know, I agree with you, put all the Asian people in. So it doesn't make any sense, right? So I say that, you know, I think that people reevaluate this whole topic. And the reality is, from a genetic perspective, there's far more difference between the two most different people inside of any given population than there is between two random people from two distinct populations at the genetic level. So it really, none of the arguments that people use actually have a solid basis.
I'm sitting here thinking as everybody's talking, and the thought just popped in my head that so far, like every single person that I've heard engage this topic, each is wielding a large percentage of correctness from their perspective. And that's what I'm going to take from this conversation. And I appreciate that. And Daz, I think you had your hand up next.
I'll try and be quick because it's been very interesting listening to the way how Wolf articulates his thinking around this subject matter. I think his thinking can really assist people in seeing through the illusion of race. So I think that's what I'm hearing him, communicate. And I can recognize that and identify that. And I also agree that the division shouldn't really be with us. It is with those 1%. I can identify when the invention of this term whiteness happened, and it was in a book, Dr. Jacqueline Batchelora, The Birth of Whiteness. They all came together and they, rebelled against the masters, and that's what really scared them. And then all of a sudden, in the laws, white people were given a little bit more privilege than people, and that is kind of what has created this structure, created this division. But that doesn't mean that even if things have got better or things have reversed, there's still, black and brown people, and this is not being a victim. I'm just going to try and use an example because I know similar things will happen to white people. But what I was thinking about was a client of mine who presented himself as really experiencing racism when he's walking on the street. He's a very sensitive person and feeling this intense anger because he's like, why are they looking at me this way? Why are they putting their head down? All of this kind of stuff. The first time I met him, because he's mixed raced, what he looked like to me was more of an Arabic person. So I had to feed that back to him and be like, you know what? I don't even know if you're actually a victim of this perceived racism. I think you're a victim maybe of that, but also Islamophobia. Because I've had to really do a lot of research around the negative campaign against the Muslims. And since 9/11, how a society was programmed to really be fearful of them, to really see them as the enemy. So I hear totally what we're saying, and it's a conversation that I think is always interesting to have just to help people think, because when we don't have these conversations, we get stuck in these kind of silos and we're just subjected to our own unconscious bias. And I see that it's an illusion, but it doesn't mean that it's not infected so many people, and that infection creates a lot of harm. And that's all that I'm trying to say.
I smell what you're cooking, Daz. And I'm glad you did just say that. I think of it like the disease of this racism stuff can be manufactured and forced upon society, similar to the whole COVID thing. I mean, this is where it gets into, societal constructs. Who's the builders? Who's doing the construction? That, to me, that's where we should be focusing, is that these things are not happenstance. They're manufactured, and we should look at the manufacturers, and we should get beyond the walls that divide us and move forwards to go after the true problem. That's where my brain is on it, is that and I want to try to word this correctly because I'm getting hungry, so my brain is floundering. To me, I feel like I'm beyond these levels of division functioning against me in my life. So I appreciate that you are in the throes of battle with these things. From my perspective, in a way, it's like you're dragging me back into a battlefield that I've already successfully moved beyond.
Can I just clarify? I'm dragging you back.
Yeah, well, by bringing up the topic, so to say, like this topic that you're engaged in, that you're warring with, is a battlefield that I've already successfully moved beyond. So it's like, in a way, like this whole discussion that we're having, this debate, this war on this topic, to me, in a way, it's like kind of exhausting, because I'm like, oh, geez, here we are again. You know, it's about race again, but it's really the wealthy that have constructed and manufactured this debate, this incendiary topic. You know, that's maybe my words are not doing so well.
No, I hear you. I recognize it's exhausting. Trust me, it's exhausting for me as well. But I feel like just for us to get to that place of agreeing that it is an illusion, it is the wealthy that are really the problem, the 1%. I think that is the point of these kind of conversations, for us to be able to agree on that, not be worrying over or the different races, but identifying where the point that it was an illusion. And even though that you and your consciousness might have got there, I feel like there's probably many people in this space who may not have got there. Even if it's just one person who's heard that and that realization, then I think it's been helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this conversation will be very helpful for many people. Go ahead, Bruce.
I was going to say, there are people that are wealthy that are normal. It's the wealthy with power and toxic culture, because there's other people that are wealthy and done really well, and they're totally normal and culturally just, would blend with anyone. And then there are people in power who have an abhorrent culture. You know what I mean? So I don't put all the wealthy in there either.
Absolutely, and I will admit my biases when it comes to the wealthy. I'm very biased through my own direct firsthand experiences, but even with that harbored prejudice, I have to yield that not every single wealthy person is a bad person. That would be ridiculous. Wolf, you got your hand up. Fire away. Zane, you got your hand up? Go for it. Oh, Wolf is back. Go ahead, Wolf.
Let Zane go first. I'll chime in when he's done. Thank you.
You got it. Go ahead, Zane.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just touched on something that was, a part of this conversation. But for me, overall, it's all about that system of control. We were talking about religion just a little bit there, Daz. Religion falls into this line. Economic status falls into this line, this thread of conversation, how we're being manipulated and controlled. And Justice, I did want to echo what you were saying before. I do, to bring in some woo into this, I do believe that there is an energy source that does interconnect all of us. And that strong energy that helps us thrive is done through love. And I just want to mention that, this conversation, I love this conversation. I don't know who you are, all of you. I've never met you personally, but I will say today I've grown an appreciation of love for all of you. And hopefully we can continue to grow in this manner moving forward. So thank you so much. I'm going to head out. I'm going to start cooking some food so I can get my kids, to have their little spaceships, so their soul machines, nice, big and strong.
Absolutely, Zane. Thank you for joining us, and have an excellent day. Be well.
Bruce, I quite like that you caveated not lumping all people who have wealth or power into a category that we're rejecting for ourselves. That categorization process, that was a nice cherry on top. It reminds me of a quote from a Scottish philosopher, Thomas Reid, a quote I value very much, that reads this way, quote, "There is no greater impediment to the advancement of knowledge than the ambiguity of words," close quote. And that should apply also to the ambiguity of thinking, right? Because our words and thoughts are directly related to one another. I'd like to point to a quad of slides I shared in the Jumbotron up on top. Bruce, I tagged you in a retweet of it because it deals with, I think, what we're all swirling around. And it's not so much that there are white or black or brown or European or African or Asian. It's really more of a peer group I care about and will expand resources to defend, right? My kind of kind, the peer groups we belong to. They can fall along course or find boundaries or encapsulations. Race happens to be a particularly sparky one for us to engage in. those folks in Europe who are talking, about there aren't enough quote white people, when it's pointed out that, well, there are plenty of lighter skinned or white colored people from the Asian area. Oh, no, they're not white. So white isn't really the word they meant to use, right? They're not saying what they mean in order to mean what they say, because they likely themselves don't fully understand what they do mean to say, right? They're operating within the same kind of programmatic boundaries we're all subject to, and which we all hopefully will endeavor to help each other correct, or at least fall less under the influence of. And Bruce, I'd be interested in your feedback, not now, not on the spot, but if any of those 4 slides are worthy of promulgation. I'm just a layperson. Please make a comment or offer some kind of feedback, positive, negative, or otherwise. I'd appreciate it, given your nuanced statements so far.
Sure thing. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Mr. Daz, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, no, just that. I am grateful for you opening up this space today, and that I could get my feel of Cawffee Talk. Don't know how I feel about the conversation. I feel like I'm always ready to engage in it, but like Eric says, it is exhausting, and I do hope that we can get to a place, generally and as a society, where we're seeing things from a more collective perspective rather than a divided one. And if I had ever said statements in this conversation that were a bit sweeping, because I know that I can be like that sometimes, I acknowledge it, and I will try and do better.
No apologies required, Daz. I'm gonna basically start wrapping things up. Bruce, it looks like you have your hand up. I'll absolutely let you jump in a second, but I am getting hungry, which is why my brain's getting exhausted. I'm going to look at it like this. I'm going to pretend like we were all just at the pub sharing some drinks and it was happy hour. And if we were all about to depart, head to our cars and pay our tabs, I would shake every one of your hands, say, have a wonderful evening, safe travels home. Thank you so much for the amazingly engaging conversation. It was wonderful. This is being a human being. We do not have to agree on anything. All we are doing is bringing to the table all of our own experiences for everybody else to chew on and consider, and hopefully walk away with a different view on things for having said engagement. That's all. This is my favorite part of being on these spaces, is having real conversations like this. This was not some sensational, some headline news type stuff. This is just real human beings sharing their real perspectives and real experiences. This is being human. So I loved this conversation today. I certainly don't agree with everybody on everything. I never do, and I never expect to. But what I want people to bring to the table is their true selves to be open to engagement. And that's exactly what happened. So to me, this was a perfectly good conversation. This was a great conversation, and I thank you all for being part of it. Go ahead, Bruce.
Thanks. Yeah, I totally agree with what you said there, and really do appreciate the conversation. I really appreciate everyone's perspectives. And I think it is unique in that we are being shown a culture at the highest levels, that's global in nature, that is shared by people that they look different. Some of them are from some backgrounds, some brothers, some skin tones, some others, but their culture is so divergent from all the others that it's helping raise that kind of elephant in the room, that everyone else is way more similar than they really thought, because they never had this great example of a mixed group whose shared culture is so divergent that then you look around and think, and I was arguing with that guy over there, who's like one step away from being like differences that allowed all these like arguments to happen for decades or centuries, and then think there were these people in the room with us the whole time who were like 100 steps different and have managed to play us on trivial differences, fighting each other for like a long time, and yet they were the most divergent people in the room, and that nobody was really even judging them. They weren't suffering for it. They had nobody problems out of it. They actually living the best lives they wanted to. And really, I hope, be very transformative as people look at that. I know there's a lot of darkness to that too, but I think it'll be really transformative in the way we all view our little minor differences going forward. You know what I mean? So that will be part of this flip, I think, to a better global society and a change in conversation about all these different fights, that who was playing us off against each other, and coming up with these ways of categorizing people, a lot of time ways that don't even actually internally make sense. And I think we'll come out of this with new ways to think about difference and similarity at the end of this. Yes, we all have differences, but I think we're going to put a lot more focus on cultural, shared cultural and behavioral norms versus anything else, as we start to look at a culture that's so kind of repugnant and different and toxic to everyone else. That I think that's going to be part of the story of transforming this whole topic. But these topics, and the last point I'll just say as well, that something I learned from doing I don't know who knows the Candles in the Dark course, but it's to do with discussing difficult topics with people, particularly around belief in the state and statism, the cult of statism. But one of the things I learned from the Candles in the Dark course, which I know is experientially true, is that when you have difficult conversations with people, like this kind of topic, difficult, friction-inducing, cognitively, difficult issues, when you have those kind of transformative conversations, you very rarely see the transformation in the other person in real time. Like, we won't have this conversation and have everyone in the room go, well, Bruce was right, let's all just totally change and agree with it. Like, that doesn't really happen. What really happens is people go away, sometimes after having horrible arguments or whatever, really resisting it, and they have time in their own lives. It might be weeks or months later, maybe other things come up and it brings them back to that. And they think, you know what, that guy I was arguing with in that space actually had a point. You know what, he's actually right on that. And you may never know that that person came to agree with you. So we're all just like planting seeds in the things we say, and some things will be wrong, they won't go anywhere. But those things that are right and really do, stick with someone, it may well germinate later on, and you just won't see it. So we should never argue to the point of fighting about it because they won't see my point. Because we can all do that. We all get stuck in a rut and just not really be reasonable on a topic, and need some time to go away and just think to ourselves, they had some points. I need to update my view. And so look at these conversations like that. Don't expect them to always come to an end where we all go, all right, we all agree. It's more important that people go away and say, well, I have something to think about. Okay. Cheers. Thank you. Thanks very much.
No, you got it, Bruce. And it looks like we actually just lost Daz, but I will restate something I said earlier, Bruce, about Daz. One of my favorite things about Daz is I have actually witnessed him in real time in these spaces be that rare person that you mentioned. So that's one of my favorite things about Daz, is that he does get new information and has at times immediately said, you know what? I see it different now. Thanks for telling me. I've changed my view. So that's, to me, one of the most impressive things about Daz. And you're right, it is rare, which is why I want to point it out as a feather in his cap for people to be aware that, Daz is that high-level caliber person. So I think it's a wonderful thing, and I think this was a fantastic conversation today. It's actually going on about an hour and a half longer than I intended, and I do have some stuff that I have to get to. First and foremost, some food, and I want to thank everybody for joining in here today, and I hope that everybody can walk away learning something. That's always my intention. And by all means, folks, don't hesitate to engage in more coffee talks in the future. I love real, passionate human conversation. As much as I'm laughing saying that right now because we're online doing it. But again, I often try to think of these spaces as what I recall happy hour after work. You know, I remember the good old days, getting off shift, getting into a room with folks that, you know some of them, you don't know some of them.
But everybody
Everybody was engaging, really engaging, and everybody spoke their mind. And it didn't necessarily go smoothly at times. They were pubs. I mean, sometimes it was, fisticuffs would occur. But then everybody would buy each other a drink afterwards and be more friendly than they were when the night started. That's life. So this was a wonderfully passionate conversation with a lot of great viewpoints from many different walks of life. And again, I thank
everybody for joining. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I will catch you all on the flip side, and everybody be well. Thank you.